What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto became the forbidden playing of Konoha's strongest man? If you enjoy this video then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let us start the story.
He couldn't really pinpoint the feeling, but if he'd had to guess. Arrogance. Naruto chuckled to himself as he watched Sasuke fruitlessly trying to get the upper hand on Hitaki Kakashi. Hitaki Kakashi, supposedly wielder of 1,000 jutsu, carries one Sharingan eye of his deceased teammate Uchiha Obito. Both Iruka and Mizuki knew this, huh? Naruto wondered to himself as he realized he was growing more accustomed to the memory blasts. How come I didn't recognize his chakra from before? Memories, humans are quite fickle about them. Kurama interjected. I'd venture a guess here that this Kakashi wasn't close to either Iruka or Mizuki. This touch and absorb thing could become quite addictive. The blonde genin would be tilted his head in wonder. Why don't I just drain everyone of their essence? You're still weak, Naruto. Besides you being weak, there's also the question on whether your actions will become too noticeable. A higher-ranked Junin such as Hitaki Kakashi. He will be missed. You will probably be dealt with in a manner you are not particularly fond of. In the field, Sasuke was just releasing a fire technique on Kakashi. The Junin had vanished even before Sasuke had released the jutsu. I suppose. Naruto agreed. He recognized the technique Kakashi used on Sasuke instantly, thanks to both Mizuki's and Iruka's memories inside of him. Doten, Shinshu Zanshu no Jutsu, huh? With that, he came to the startling realization that he already knew many jutsu. He knew all the jutsu Iruka and Mizuki knew, after all. But he wasn't the hothead he had been before anymore. No, he now had thought patterns averaged from himself, Mizuki and Iruka. He grinned as he rose from his position. He didn't find Sasuke's head sticking out of the ground funny at all. Well, maybe a little bit still. The old Naruto would laugh into next month. Uchiha Sasuke. He has lost his entire family thanks to his older brother, Uchiha Itachi, slaughtering them all. He is one of Orochimaru-sama's targets. I forgot to tell Kabuto-sama in what team he's going to be placed. Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto-sama? The Jinchuriki narrowed his eyes as a visual memory blast hit him and he knew exactly who Orochimaru and Yakushi Kabuto were. Kabuto is currently a genin from Konoha and a spy for Orochimaru, who is the leader of Otogakure. Kurama chuckled madly. It seems Iruka is not the only one who's useful. This Mizuki human knows a thing or two as well. In the field, Sasuke was desperately trying to dig himself up from the ground, to no avail. Naruto watched how Sakura came running, but suddenly screamed and fainted as soon as she saw Sasuke's head sticking out from the ground. Before, Naruto would be all over Sakura, protecting her and whatnot. But now, he wasn't even thinking about it. Otogakure, huh? This Orochimaru guy sounds interesting. Memories from both Iruka and Mizuki told Naruto that Orochimaru was a missing nin. He was a teammate to Jiraiya and Tsunade and together they were the legendary Sannin. Students of the current Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. I can actually drain anyone outside of Konoha easily, right? Yes, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. The great fox demon was amused. It is fun to be on this side of the Otsutsuki. So, you're not trying to catch these bells, Naruto? The blonde had sensed the Junin a minute ago, so he calmly turned around and regarded Kakashi with a bored look. You're a Junin. An academy student like me can't possibly succeed without the help of those two. He nodded over his shoulder at Sakura and Sasuke. I don't plan on doing useless things, Kakashi-san. You'll go back to the academy if things continue like this. Perhaps that is for the best then. Here, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki actually grinned. Or were you perhaps ordered to pass us? The Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the last Uchiha sent back to the academy. It doesn't sound good, not good at all. Careful, there's a law on that, remember? The jovial tone the Junin was using was suddenly gone. Ah, Naruto scratched the back of his head in mock regret. My bad, Kakashi-san. The blonde then sighed as he considered the Junin in front of him. Honestly, though, I'd rather be sent back to the academy than to be in a team where I'm not wanted. It looks like he's showing his true self. I can't really respond to his comment, though. Kakashi put his Icha Icha book away. You'd waste another whole year? Just because you don't want to be in a team with Sakura and Sasuke? Kakashi held back a blink as Naruto actually sent him a glance of utter boredom. Don't you think that's the wrong question to ask, Kakashi-san? The Jinchuriki shook his head and turned away from the Junin. I'll clarify. I'd rather be a civilian than be on a team that will get me killed. Panting and with his hands on his knees, he considered his options. The pink-haired useless existence wouldn't be of any help. Perhaps that blonde nuisance could prove to be enough of a distraction for him to take the bells. Maybe he'd even give the Dobi a bell afterwards for the provided assistance. Probably not. Uchiha Sasuke glared at his nonchalant opponent, who was slowly flipping pages of a small book in his hands. The Uchiha didn't take well to being underestimated. Gritting his teeth, the raven-haired boy chose to retreat and find his blonde classmate. After a good 5 minutes, Sasuke finally found the blonde slumped over against a tree, peacefully sleeping. He resisted the urge to poke a kunai through his chest and instead shoved him awake. Dead last. Sasuke, let's take down that Junin together. Nah. Sasuke blinked as Naruto went back to sleep. What just happened? He was about to shove the blonde some more, but suddenly found himself pinned against the same tree the blonde was sleeping against. More noticeably though was the kunai resting against the skin just under his right eye. Touch me again and say goodbye to your eyes, Sasuke. He swallowed nervously. With the way the kunai was positioned, Sasuke knew it wasn't impossible for Naruto to take his eye out. Pushing Sasuke to the right from himself, Naruto fell back to the ground and tried to make himself comfortable against the tree once more. Leave me alone. Not thinking about how easy Naruto had him pinned against that tree, he tried again. Look, we can pass this test without Sakura. Despite you being dead last, I think you'll be less of a nuisance than her in a team. He scoffed as he turned away from him and stared at the direction he thought Kakashi was still waiting at. She'll just die from being too useless. Turning back around, Sasuke gritted his teeth as he realized Naruto had the audacity to snore. Another voice stopped him from waking the blonde up again. Looks like you won't be of any help, Sasuke-kun. Turning quickly and grabbing a kunai, Sasuke braced himself. But Kakashi was still reading his Icha-Icha. Ah, no need to be so nervous, Sasuke-kun. It is you who should be attacking me, after all. I wasn't expecting anything from a dead last, anyway. I'll get those bells myself. Launching himself forward, Sasuke once again found himself trapped. This time, in a tree. Damn you. Kakashi simply giggled as he walked away. Oh, Kikyo-chan, you're so naughty. Behave. Sakura finally woke up from her nightmare of Sasuke being decapitated and took in her surroundings. She quickly remembered she was taking another test to become a genin and tried to locate any of the others. To her surprise, Kakashi was lying down on the ground quite close to her, sleeping with an orange book on top his head. Chance. As she reached for the bells, she suddenly found herself with her back on the ground. How rude to attack a man while he's sleeping. Kakashi reprimanded as he walked away from the girl. The would-be genin realized Kakashi must have used Kawarimi with herself and at the same time bound her feet and hands behind her back. I can't free myself. No need to scream. The departing Junin calmly let out. There's no one near to hear you anyway. Hearing sounds, Naruto slowly opened his right eye to see Sasuke fruitlessly try to escape from the tree his body was entrapped in. Only his head was sticking out. Pointing his finger at the Uchiha, Naruto laughed. Haha, useless. Shut up, dead last. I'll kill you when I get out of here. Within that same second, Naruto was in front of the Uchiha with a kunai in Sasuke's mouth, as he was still screaming out the threat. How about you shut up before I make your entire face a fucking mouth? He was dead serious. Naruto was dead serious. Sasuke realized this as Naruto was glaring the mother of all glares down at him. There was no smile on the blonde's face. No grin or even a scowl. Just dead neutralism. I think we should both decide that, you will never call me a dead last again, right, Sasuke? The Uchiha shivered a bit as Naruto let a little killing intent get carried along with the question. With the kunai positioned as it was, Sasuke couldn't even nod his head. Satisfied, Naruto removed the kunai from Sasuke's mouth and walked away. Get yourself out of that tree, man. Taking a look over his shoulder, he added. You look ridiculous. That was pretty disturbing. Sighing, Naruto stared at Kakashi in slight wonder. The Jinchuriki had walked quite a distance away from Sasuke when Kakashi suddenly appeared in front of him. He asked for it. The Junin tilted his head. I don't think I heard him asking for a kunai in his mouth. With a grin, Naruto also tilted his head. It was a very silent question. You had to have been there. He suddenly got in fighting position, making Kakashi adjust his own stance slightly. Now the blonde wanted to fight? But we both know that wasn't a real kunai. Not like this one. He started as he grabbed a real kunai from his holster. Throwing it at the Junin, Naruto had already gathered chakra to perform a kawarimi with the thrown kunai to surprise the Junin. Impressed, the Junin dodged and allowed Naruto to sail past him and quickly ducked under 3 shuriken thrown over the blonde's shoulder. You like wasting chakra, Kakashi stated. Performing hand seals, Naruto ignored the Junin and simply grinned. Taiju kawarimi. Kakashi sensed that Naruto had gathered a lot of chakra and realized the blonde was trying to prove his point. Yeah, wasting chakra is my thing. The book in Kakashi's right hand had turned into Naruto. That was when Kakashi turned serious. No, this concerned Icha. This was where he had to turn serious. I had to fail them, Hokage-sama. They weren't working together at all. Be that as it may, you'll have to gather them once again. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the last of the Uchiha have to become genin as of now. Test them again and force teamwork as you go. The copycat ninja sighed. He was seated in front of the Hokage as both of them were discussing the test. Sensei's son, he's become quite jaded. That is understandable, considering. Hiruzen placed his hands on the table and rested his chin on them. What of his skills? He covered a wide area with his chakra to be able to replace himself with everything in said area. He called it the advanced replacement technique. Kakashi chuckled here. It isn't unheard of, it just costs too much chakra. And it won't work on a Junin, obviously, since it is slow and quite predictable. He's lucky he has that much chakra. What got to me though is, at one time, he replaced himself with the bells. The Hokage chuckled mischievously. So he actually passed your test? Nah, I got the bells back before he could even touch them. But it was ingenious. I think he was trying to prove a point. That he didn't need the other two to get a bell. The gray-haired Junin rubbed his head in slight frustration. He got this idea in his head that Sakura and Sasuke don't want to be a team with him. Well, can you blame him? His entire class was against him and even the teachers were. The only teacher that wasn't was Iruka, and the boy killed him. Yes, you've told me. He has a very dangerous ability. He didn't show me anything dangerous, though. I still find it hard to believe that he got rid of 2 Chunin-leveled shinobi. It's what happened, Kakashi. And I have a suspicion that his ability is more advanced than what first meets the eye. If you notice anything out of the ordinary, you immediately report to me. Actually, I think he's a censor nin. He spotted me before, while I was in hiding. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed dangerously. Kakashi, a former Anbu captain, in hiding and he was still sensed? Exactly things like that. You see, his skill, this uncanny ability of his. I think he can absorb people by touch. If what I think is true, he can also absorb their jutsu and their abilities. The Hokage's expression turned quite grave. Amino Iruka was a censor nin. Uzumaki Naruto definitely wasn't. The next day, Sakura was happily walking next to her precious Sasuke-kun, following after Kakashi. She was pleasantly surprised to see Sasuke in front of her door in the morning. Of course, Kakashi was also there, but she hardly noticed. There was another test for them, another genin trial. They were now on the way to pick up the dead last of the class. Just like Sasuke, Naruto lived by himself. But unlike the Uchiha, Naruto didn't have an entire estate to himself. No, the blonde just had a small apartment located in the slums of Konoha. If Sakura wasn't paying all of her attention to Sasuke, she might have felt a bit of pity for Naruto. Sasuke, on the other hand, understood a bit more about Naruto now. Knocking on the door to Naruto's apartment, Kakashi felt something was off. He wasn't a censor nin, but it did feel like there were a lot of people inside Naruto's apartment. Cage Bunshin, maybe? But as Naruto opened the door, the apartment was completely empty save for the blonde. And completely empty it was, save for a refrigerator, a small round table and one dirty chair. This place stinks. Shut up, Sasuke. Seeing the blonde act like himself again, Sasuke considered the weird killing intent from the other day just as a one-time thing. Maybe the blonde had just been cranky or something. Kakashi had also used his nose, but smelled things all the others couldn't. Blood. Why are you guys here anyway? I'm busy. Busy with what? Definitely not with cleaning your apartment. The Uchiha continued as his eyes scanned his entire living quarters in the blink of an eye. The Junin in their midst disagreed with Sasuke's observation. The blonde actually had been cleaning. Naruto was probably getting rid of all the blood. He could smell it even better now that everyone was inside. What had happened? Whose blood was this? Naruto's? It's so small, came Sakura's voice. You live here by yourself? No, I just like to hang out here. Dryly turning from Sakura to Kakashi, he frowned. So, why are you here? Trust. Sasuke and Sakura looked at each other and Naruto, while Naruto simply frowned at Kakashi. Kakashi had taken them back to the same training ground from yesterday. They were all now seated on the ground. That's what we're missing. Yesterday, 2 genin teams passed their test. Team 8 under Yuhi Kurenai consists of Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino and Hyuga Hinata. Team 10 is led by Sarutobi Asuma and his students are Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino and Akamichi Choji. They have what you lack. They trust each other? Kakashi tilted his head left and right as he considered Sakura's question. Partially. They are all familiar with each other. They know each other. You three, on the other hand, don't know each other at all. Therefore, I'm going to ask you questions and you are going to answer me. Kakashi. Call me Kakashi-sensei, Naruto. And what is it? My assumption from yesterday is correct, then? You have to pass us because. The copycat quickly cut the blonde off. Also, partially. It's my turn to ask the questions now. He quickly continued, lest the other two would start asking what Naruto meant. Sasuke, what do you know about Sakura? Sasuke's reply was quick, nothing, at which Sakura dropped her head in depression. Try harder. Sasuke scowled and glared at the gray-haired Junin. She has pink hair. Her voice is very loud. Her last name is Haruka? Sakura looked like her heart had been flattened by stones. Kakashi dropped his head and kept his gaze steady on the Uchiha. Haruno. Her name is Haruno Sakura. Quote, that's all I know. Which means, I don't really care, if one had a Sasuke translator on hand. Not good enough, Sasuke. Try harder. I am sure the other way around she knows more about you? That quip earned Kakashi a smoldering glare, but Sasuke tried again. She graduated with top marks close to some of my own. He then turned to the person in question, who seemed absolutely thrilled by this. With great delight she waited for his next comment. She is not ready to become a shinobi. The girl actually dropped backwards on the ground at that. Kakashi didn't reprimand the Uchiha but motioned to the boy to continue. This was needed for the team. She has little to no skills. No wait. Sasuke thought about it. She has no skills. Except, he slowly and begrudgingly let out, I think she has a photographic memory. She seemed to remember everything that was written down on the whiteboard in class. Sakura was back in seated position with a blinding smile on her face. It was very annoying, the Uchiha added, and she was back on the ground. Kakashi nodded his head. I suppose that'll do. My conclusion is that you don't know her at all. I will see to it that will change. Now, what do you know about Naruto? Why am I the only one getting these stupid questions? Kakashi simply offered a cheerful eye smile. He's the dead last. He can't remember anything. Naruto seemed unperturbed as Sasuke started. His so-called pranks he pulls off every day are a desperate cry for attention he only sometimes gets. At that, both Kakashi and Naruto lifted their eyebrows. That was pretty accurate. Sakura was swooning too much to hear. His clothes are ridiculous. Sasuke finished. Naruto looked down at his attire and actually agreed. You know what, Sasuke? Sasuke frowned at the blonde, daring him to tell him he was wrong about the orange monstrosity. Instead, he received a single nod. You are absolutely right. First thing I do after this weird meeting is get some new clothes. Still, that's not enough, Sasuke. Try some more. Sasuke looked at the ground as if he was thinking about whether to continue. He's hated by everyone. Huh? Sakura actually caught that. What do you mean? Sasuke didn't deem Sakura worthy enough for a reply. Yes, what do you mean, Sasuke? The young Avenger pondered if Kakashi was worthy enough for a reply, but in the end sighed and elaborated. The entire village hates him. It's obvious. Any moron can see. Even blind morons can see. He pointedly looked at Sakura before turning back to Kakashi. Some fools see less than blind morons, though. That's not very nice, Sasuke. But Sakura didn't understand that the insult was aimed at her anyway, Kakashi realized. I suppose that's Ino. Why does everyone hate Naruto? The girl of the group suddenly asked. Naruto rolled his eyes at both Sasuke and Kakashi. They were real fools talking about it out in the open. He supposed he could come up with, because of my pranks. I'm getting real ridiculous lately. Don't be stupid. Sasuke surprisingly reacted quickly. No amount of pranks can make everyone hate you. He locked eyes with the blonde. There's something else. Hey, mind your own fucking business, Sasuke. The Uchiha glare was turned on instantly at Naruto's rude response. Naruto. Language. Kakashi quickly let out, but Sasuke continued back. As if anyone's interested in your pitiful life, Dobi. Alright, that's enough. Kakashi started to wonder if these two could be in a team together. What was the Sandame thinking? Your turn, Naruto. Alright, the blonde started before Kakashi could say who he had to start with. Legendary wielder of the Sharingan. Sasuke immediately sat back in confusion at the weird opening. What? Hitaki Kakashi. Dramatically, he rose both his arms over his head. It is rumored you know 1,000 jutsu because of that jutsu stealer. Very funny, Naruto. The lazy Junin interjected. What do you know about Sasuke? Whoa, not fair. It seems Naruto still had his playful moments as he grinned at the Junin. We all have to tell a story about each other, but you're not playing? Not cool, Kakashi. Sasuke agreed angrily, still a bit ticked about having to go first but more about this Junin having a Sharingan. You have a Sharingan. You are not an Uchiha. Obviously. Naruto quickly threw in there. Alright, with a drawl and a sigh, Kakashi folded his arms and hung his head back a bit. In the war, one of my teammates was an Uchiha. He died, sacrificing himself to save me and my other teammate. He is a true hero of Konoha. He gave me his Sharingan eye before he died. The Uchiha seemed to accept this, also sensing the sadness the Junin was trying to contain. What was his name? Uchiha Obito. He didn't leave anyone behind, he was an orphan. Sasuke dropped his head in mental pain, suddenly remembering the past, where the Uchiha were still alive. So, what do you know about Sasuke, Naruto? Quirking an eyebrow, Naruto sat cross-legged with an elbow on one of his knees and his head leaning into the palm of his hand as he decided to play this game. I know so much about young Uchiha Sasuke, where to start? He ignored Sasuke's glare and Kakashi's look of amusement. Even Sakura seemed a bit amused. I think Senju Hashirama is still alive, because I don't know how else to explain that gigantic tree up his ass. Sakura turned red in embarrassment. Dobi. Sasuke looked ready to murder the blonde at least 5 times. Naruto. Be serious. Kakashi was very clear. Fine, fine. And serious he did turn. Uchiha Sasuke is the only survivor of the Uchiha massacre. He is one of the only 2 Uchiha still alive in this world. The other is Uchiha Itachi, the one responsible for killing off the entire Uchiha clan. Kakashi dangerously narrowed his eyes and was quick enough to stop Sasuke from assaulting Naruto. Holding Sasuke in a lock, Kakashi wasn't sure on whether to let Naruto continue, but decided to let him and gestured so. I didn't mean to offend, Sasuke. The Jinchuriki tried to give them his most reassuring smile. Anyway, Sasuke has good taijutsu and ninjutsu, haven't seen him use genjutsu yet. I've only seen him use the Kaden Gukakyu no Jutsu, so yeah, he knows that one. The blonde looked up to the sky as he thought about all the information he had from Iruka and Mizuki and didn't know if he should share that. He graduated top of our class and he likes girls with long hair? That's not true. So, you like girls with short hair? No. Bald girls? Shut up, dead last. Kakashi was still holding him in a headlock. Oh, sorry. Naruto, still seated peacefully, bowed his head shortly at the not-so-peacefully Sasuke. I didn't know. Sakura was very interested in the topic. Didn't know what? Slowly turning to Sakura, Naruto explained. He's into boys. No. Sakura fell unconscious. I'm going to kill you with your own mouth, Naruto. My own? What the hell, man? Calm down, Sasuke. Half an hour later. Sasuke was still glaring deep wounds into Naruto, but the blonde seemed oblivious. Obliviously cheerful. Seems you've finally woken up. I just had the worst nightmare. Groggily, the pink-haired girl rubbed her eyes as she focused on her surroundings. She then noticed where she was. No, don't tell me it's true. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a little Sasuke thought it might get rid of a fangirl. But Sasuke instantly rectified the situation. Of course not, you idiot. But the girl could understand Naruto's logic. If Sasuke didn't like girls with long or short hair, or those bald, then what? For fear of the answer, she quickly paid attention to Kakashi's waving hand in front of her. Now that you're back with us, Naruto can continue with you. Sure. Naruto plopped back down on the ground. Haruno Sakura also graduated with top marks, just below Sasuke in some areas. She was bullied for a long time because of her large forehead, but that stopped as soon as she became friends with Yamana Ino. Here, he turned to Sakura. I think you should really be nicer to her, Sakura. A question mark hovered above Sakura for a moment. Naruto was surprisingly attentive during the academy, it seemed. She, just like all the other girls, grew her hair out to try and win Sasuke over. Naruto snorted and surprisingly, so did Sasuke. It has proven fruitless. Naruto concluded dramatically with a deadpan expression. Quite superficial information, but it'll do. It simply proves certain points. Your turn, Sakura. Sasuke-kun is the rookie of the year. She immediately started. He likes girls with long hair. Clearly, she hadn't heard Naruto. He lost his entire family at a young age and has a broken soul that needs to be repaired by the power of true love. Again, both Naruto and Sasuke snorted. One in amusement, the other in disgust. The only thing broken here will be Naruto's nose. Sasuke, don't interrupt. Hey, stay away from my nose. Sakura continued as if they were still paying attention. He knows many jutsu and will probably become Junin in no time. Sakura, no assumptions, just what you really know. Kakashi supplied. What I really know. The Junin nodded. Sakura looked at Sasuke and seemed very uncertain all of a sudden. I don't know a lot about him. What about Naruto? Guiltily, she offered the blonde a look of apologies. Even less? Kakashi sighed and clasped his hands together. Well, let's change that. Now tell us about yourselves. You start, Sakura. How can that idiot kill me with my own mouth? That's impossible. Naruto was thinking as he made his way back home. You are getting quite used to your ability. The old you is resurfacing rapidly and more powerfully. This is good. We don't want to become too noticeable. Yeah, I've realized the same thing. Naruto thought back. Especially last night gave me some much needed clarity. Kurama chuckled sinisterly. Yes, last night was very enlightening. So, I'm a genin now. I knew Kakashi had been ordered to pass us anyway. This means I'll be in a team with Sasuke and Sakura for quite some time. Wonder how that'll go. Never trust an Uchiha, Naruto. They are known as the emotional shinobi. Their emotions make them more powerful, but also less stable, mental-wise. Stab him in his back before he can stab you in yours. Nah, I'm not gonna stab that poor sap in his back. I'm going to cut his arms off and let him live. See what kind of shinobi he'll be without arms. Perhaps a leg as well? Uchiha are quite gifted with their eyes. Yeah, maybe, but then he'll look ridiculous. And with no arms he won't? Their first C-rank mission. They had to escort Tazuna, a bridge builder, back to the country he came from, Wave Country. They were to also protect him from bandits. As Team 7 followed after Tazuna, Naruto was having a mental conversation with Kurama. He called it Shinzui Bunshin, the clone of Essence. Naruto understood. That means, they're actually still alive, inside of me. Supposedly, but they are undoubtedly yours. I think they're just clones in which you have temporarily stored essence in. You should see them as slaves. Kurama paused, trying to remember whatever he could from centuries back. There are no hand seals for this technique. It is simply a sub-skill for your ability. You can just will it. I've seen my father's brother do it. He simply created them from out of his body, like an extension. They all had their own existence, their own character, but when it came to the blood, they were Hamura, they couldn't disobey his commands. The same will be true for you. You can always summon those you have absorbed and let them fight for you. They have no choice in the matter. How do I perform this Shinzui Bunshin? I do not know. Experiment. Wow, see those two idiots? What are they doing? Just standing around like that? They have concealed themselves in a genjutsu. Apparently, they are supposed to be a puddle of water on the ground. They're weak. They won't add anything. And then, the duo moved for Kakashi. Naruto smiled and quickly jumped in front of the Kakashi, knocking the chains away with a kunai. Hua! The great Uzumaki Naruto sees through your tricks. Move aside, brat. We'll kill your teacher and then the old man. We won't kill you if you get lost. One of them uttered. Sasuke was shocked at the speed in which Naruto had moved while Sakura still had to come to terms with it. Hang back, Naruto. These are the demon brothers of the mist. They are known for their poison. Carelessly shrugging, Naruto didn't hang back at all. Not only that, Kakashi-sensei. They work for Momochi Zabuza. How does he know that? Gozu, one of the demon brothers, thought. Only few have that information. Maizu didn't care and rushed for Naruto. Too bad you'll die young. He raged as his claw neared Naruto's face. Instead, Kakashi used Shunshin and knocked him out in one blow. You do realize I'm a Junin, right? Gozu, now the only still conscious, dropped to his knees on the ground and surrendered. Crap, the mist didn't let them see where Naruto disappeared to. So now Sasuke and Sakura were stuck protecting Tazuna with just the two of them. Kakashi was still fighting Zabuza in this horrid mist technique. Zabuza had ambushed them further down the road and Kakashi had quickly ordered them to stay put and guard Tazuna. After a while of exchanging blows, Kakashi was kicked away right into the water. They couldn't really see what happened, but Kakashi's voice suddenly yelled out for them to take Tazuna and retreat. Apparently, the Junin was trapped in a water prison. He told his subordinates that as long as he was trapped, so was the real Zabuza. Water clones of Zabuza were approaching them from the distance and Kakashi told them water clones would lose their substance when they moved too far away from the caster. That's when Naruto jumped into the fray with no warning at all, leaving Sasuke and Sakura behind. In the mist, unprotected but fearless, Naruto willed a Shinzui Bunshin into existence. Chakra poured outside of Naruto and seemed to rapidly take form. Kakashi could see him from where he was trapped. Naruto, run. He's too much for you. He won't be able to keep the water clone up if it's too far away from him. The genin ignored the Junin and continued concentrating on the technique. And then, Amino Iruka and Toji Mizuki stood to his left and right. You did well, Naruto. Kakashi's eyes widened from inside of the water prison. Coming from out of Naruto's existence, both Mizuki and Iruka knew all about their predicament. TCH, I can't believe we've been reduced to be his toys. Mizuki growled out, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's what you deserve, Mizuki. Iruka bit out in equal harshness. He turned to Naruto. I want you to know I don't blame you for what's happened, Naruto. You couldn't have prevented it. Besides, in a way, you've made me immortal. When they die, Naruto. You can choose to absorb them back into you. But you cannot choose to release them from their captivity. Without you nearby, they will wither and die. They cannot move against you and cannot disobey you. They are quite the convenient pieces of existence. So we're up against Momochi Zabuza, the devil of the mist? Mizuki sighed and accepted his fate. Even if I don't want to, I don't really have a choice anyway. My life is not mine anymore. Stop complaining, they're coming. Naruto watched as Mizuki and Iruka dealt with 4 water clones, but the 5th managed to wound them both enough to drop them to the ground. Naruto watched their bodies drop to the ground and decided he would absorb them back into himself when the fight was over. Now they were slowly bleeding to death. The 5th water clone approached. What kind of clones were they? Shinzui Bunshin. Naruto answered. So 2 Chunin was too easy for you, huh? I guess I can't underestimate you. And you're just a water clone. Imagine what the real one is like. The water clone Zabuza barked out a laugh. Exactly, kid. Now be a good boy and don't move. This time way quicker. Naruto warped out another clone out of himself. One with more chakra presence. The water clone's eyes widened as he recognized who stood before him. Even Kakashi's eyes widened in fear. Pitiful, came the voice of Naruto's new slave. An elite Junin of Konoha, trapped by a meager Suiro no Jutsu. The newcomer turned his head over his shoulder and motioned at Naruto. Despite my permanent predicament, I am at least relieved to know this one holds much potential. Unlike you, Kakashi, this one will get very far. Shimura? Zabuza started as he stepped back in caution. Danzo, Kakashi finished in slight despair. Naruto simply grinned. Flashback. They say talking to yourself is the first sign of mental instability. Whipping his head around quickly, Naruto was surprised to see an old man standing in his apartment. I didn't sense this guy at all. He had been talking out loud to Kurama. Narrowing his eyes, he immediately sensed 5 incoming chakra presences that surrounded his apartment from the outside. He brought company. The chakra presence of the ever-present Anbu that was guarding him was gone. This meant that this was no visit under the Hokage's orders. Be careful, Naruto. This guy is very powerful. Who are you? He tried to let out as intimidating as possible. I've heard you failed the Genin examination, Uzumaki Naruto. I have come with an offer. So, the old man doesn't know you're here? Naruto suddenly grinned as he locked eyes with the man with the cane. I know what you're thinking, Naruto. Play it smart, this man is very wary. You'll have to be really quick. End flashback. I have some disturbing news, Kakashi. Konoha's copycat was standing in front of the fire leader's desk, after having been told that his team would receive a C-ranked mission this afternoon. A mission to wave that could spiral into dangerous regions because Gato was involved. He could probably handle it, though. My old teammate hasn't been seen for a few days. Kakashi seemed to ponder on it for a bit, before he turned serious. You mean Shimura Danzo? The Cage nodded his head in troubled fashion. I've spoken to some of his subordinates. You and I both know they cannot speak of anything rude related because of the silence Fuin Danzo has forced on them. He has been missing for more than a week, which has never happened before. If this week changes into 2 weeks, I will have to brand him Nuke Nin. He hasn't been killed? He is definitely still alive. The Fuin seal on his subordinates would have deactivated if he died. The aging leader's gaze turned dead serious and Kakashi straightened his posture immediately. This is a dangerous situation, Kakashi. Who knows what that stubborn man is thinking? Your team in particular is in danger, seeing as you have the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the last of the Uchiha under your wings. You might get targeted, so you're saying Team 7 won't accept the wave mission? You will accept, but I want you to use your dog summons around you at all times and Team Guy will be half a day behind you. Hiruzen tilted his head slightly. But knowing Guy, that'll probably be less as that same day progresses. Understood. Kakashi was gaping like a fish as Danzo calmly strutted forward in almost bored fashion. He wasn't even considering Zabuza as he took in his surroundings. Just as calmly as he was walking, he moved the bandages on his head to the side to reveal a glaring Sharingan eye. Now he was focusing on Zabuza. Boy, I suggest you beg for mercy. Shaking himself out of his shock, Zabuza quickly found his courage and motioned for his accomplice to show himself, too. Even you will have trouble against 2 A-ranked shinobi. Danzo actually chuckled. He was quite enjoying this backseat kind of situation. So you noticed? Came Naruto's voice. Danzo looked over his shoulder and nodded his head to Naruto. In fact, it looked as if he nodded his thanks to the blonde. It might not be how I expected things to play out, but I have surely surpassed Hiruzen now. When performing the Shinzui Bunshin, Naruto can choose many things. To infuse the clone of essence with, either his chakra, his blood or even blood and or chakra from any he has absorbed. Right now, he infused Danzo with his own blood. Uzumaki blood. Blood of a descendant to the Senju. Blood that can make Danzo control both the Sharingan in his eye a lot easier and blood that can actually perform jutsu with and control the Mokuton presence in his body. Yes, even though he was an undead slave now, he was feeling quite well. You want some backup? Naruto grinned as he had his arms folded over one another. Sasuke and Sakura, way further back in the mist, couldn't see any of this. No. Danzo was resolute. I wish to test this thoroughly. Kakashi swallowed nervously as he saw Danzo perform hand seals. Mokuton? Mokuryu no Jutsu. Naruto grinned in perfect bliss. A huge wooden dragon shot out of Danzo's body and flew towards his 2 adversaries in menacing speed. Zabuza and Haku were already backpedaling in panic, the older performing hand seals in rapid fashion. A wood user? Zabuza-sama, what are we up against? Who is that boy? Haku was standing behind her mentor as he tried to fight off the wooden dragon with a water dragon. But it looked like the water dragon was simply being absorbed into the attack. This was to be expected, as it was simply a water clone of Zabuza that performed the technique. That boy summoned this man to fight against us and now he's just. Looking past both Zabuza and Danzo, she noticed the blonde. Just sitting on the ground? The wooden dragon raged towards them, having added power to itself after completely devouring the water dragon Zabuza had uselessly used as a countermeasure. Hiku, we had to run. This is too much. Zabuza's water clone evaporated and the real Zabuza swiftly released Kakashi from the water prison. You're not going anywhere, Devil Zabuza. Danzo, having appeared by a speedy shunshin, was blocking his escape. Hiku was approaching in the distance, but Danzo had already sliced in Zabuza's right shoulder with a futon technique. You'll be a fine addition. Hiku raced as fast as he could, but suddenly felt a horrible pain in his back. Falling to the ground and managed to look up, he saw the blonde boy from before, towering above him. A hunter nin from the mist, huh? I hope you're strong, she heard him say as he felt him put his hand to her head. 10 seconds later, she was no longer among the living. But for some reason, she still was. Sasuke and Sakura saw the mist clear away and noticed Naruto and Kakashi approaching them from the distance. They both could clearly see the huge sword Zabuza was using on Naruto's back. What had happened? Is that guy dead? The stutter came from Tazuna. Are we safe again? It could be a trick. Don't let your guard down. Sasuke ordered both Sakura and Tazuna. Why else would that blonde dunce be carrying that sword? But Sakura was confused, but complied with Sasuke's order. Stand down, Zabuza has been killed. Kakashi ordered as he tried not to look at Naruto. As of now, Kakashi was sure the blonde could kill their entire squad. His analyzing mind was working overtime as he tried to understand Naruto's ability. Prove it, say something only you know. You won't know something only I know, Sasuke. Naruto wasn't as reasonable as their instructor. Sasuke, you're an ass who's into guys. Naruto. Sakura tried to reprimand, but realized it was actually proof. Che, shut up, clown. Did Kakashi give you that sword? Hey, I found it before he could pick it up. Naruto, next time stay with your comrades and protect the client. You can't just abandon an order. Naruto gave his sensei a sly look that spoke volumes, but nodded his consent. Of course, Kakashi sensei. So. Hesitantly, Tazuna stepped towards Kakashi. We're safe now? Kakashi was eyeing his team with clear suspicion in his eyes. They had arrived at the home of Tazuna's daughter, Tsunami. At the moment, they were all eating dinner in relative silence. Sasuke and Sakura were just normal rookie genin, but Naruto. That ability was very dangerous. After having thought about it for the entire day, Kakashi had come to several conclusions. The first was that he could summon people that he had absorbed. Amino Uruka and Toji Mizuki were evidence of that. He was no censor, but he could tell it was really them and not Naruto in disguise. The second conclusion was that the people he absorbed were actually still alive inside of Naruto. Shimura Danzo was the proof of that one, since the Silence Fuin seals were still active en route Anbu in Konoha. So Danzo was still alive. But how did that work? If still alive, why would Danzo listen to Naruto and fight for him? Thus came the third conclusion. After being absorbed, you're still alive but you become one of Naruto's soldiers, if you could call them that. Danzo would never willingly listen to a brat like Naruto, so there was no other explanation. But there were also revelations. Apparently, Shimura Danzo has a Sharingan Eye and the Mokuton ability. What a dangerous man. And now that Zabuza and Hiku were also absorbed, that meant Naruto could summon more soldiers to fight for him. What kind of monster would he become? His eye flashed to sudden Anbu hand signals and Kakashi immediately recognized them as talk in private. Seems Naruto has learned a few things from his absorbees? His eye narrowed as he made a move for the door. That could also be a conclusion. Did Naruto learn everything from his absorbees instantly? Naruto, you and I are up for guard duty first. Sasuke, Sakura, get some rest. The minute they stepped out of the house, Naruto used Shunshin to get away fast. Kakashi gauged the speed in which he was moving and realized the blonde wanted him to follow. Single quote ellipsis. Do I trust him? Would Naruto absorb him? He chose to let a cage bunshin follow his student and followed after the clone. Coming at a clearing, the shadow clone found Naruto pouting. You wound me, Kakashi. You don't trust me enough? The reply wasn't immediate. Kakashi was thinking too much on how Naruto could recognize him being a shadow clone. Can you blame me? You have already taken 3 Konoha shinobi, that I know of. That you know of, yes. Naruto's grin was too much like a cat and Kakashi didn't like it. Don't worry, I won't absorb you. And if you need to know, Danzo came to my house and started intimidating me. I simply finished a battle he couldn't win. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki turned serious here. You need to understand something, Kakashi. I will explain. Kakashi's Kage Bunshin turned very wary as Danzo, Iruka, Mizuki, Zabuza and Haku melted out of Naruto's body in less than 2 seconds. No limit, then. I thought too, because he summoned Iruka and Mizuki first during that fight with Zabuza. You're a talented shinobi, Kakashi. Danzo started as he sat on the ground. Clever enough to know not to fight hopeless battles, I presume? You're still alive. Kakashi breathed out. In a way I am, but in many I am not. I have a limited own will, but it is close to a complete free one, by my standards. There are only 2 things we cannot do. The aging Warhawk sighed as he played with his cane a bit. We cannot attack Uzumaki Naruto in any way and we cannot disobey any order given by him. His is what keeps us semi-alive. You didn't know you had a monster like him under you, Kakashi? Zabuza seemed annoyed and Haku, next to him, sad. I got turned into a fucking slave soldier. Iruka stepped forward this time. Kakashi-san? Naruto is a good boy, he won't harm Konoha. You can still trust him despite this horrid ability. How do I know he didn't order you to say that, Iruka-san? Kakashi wasn't sure whether Naruto could mentally send orders around between these creations of his. Apparently summoning them wasn't tiring, because Naruto himself was simply standing amongst them with a grin on his face. You don't. This time it was Mizuki who answered. But you need to know no one will be able to stop this kid. He knows everything, and by everything I mean. Mizuki glared at the ground. More than you and I will ever know. As of right now, Naruto is loyal to Konoha. Since I can only follow him, I wish for this to remain. Konoha hasn't treated the boy well. Danzo's single eye was glaring at Kakashi. It is in your best interest to make sure Naruto stays loyal to Konoha. I'm standing right here, Danzo. My actions are mostly controlled by you, my speech it seems, isn't. Danzo shrugged to Naruto. As long as you fight for Konoha, I don't necessarily mind this situation. All of the absorbees vaporized like wisps of smoke back into Naruto with a simple thought. I am getting really used to this ability of mine. His head suddenly twitched and Kakashi was instantly on guard. 4 shinobi are approaching Tazunza's house. He dropped his alert demeanor a bit since he had an idea on who it could be and used his nose. Don't worry, it's a Konoha team. Interesting. The hair on the back of Kakashi's neck stood up as he watched Naruto narrow his eyes at him. None of what I've learned so far told me your nose was this advanced. We are almost a mile away from the house and you smelled them so easy. What about you? Kakashi countered. You sensed them this far ahead? The blonde grinned. See? They are about a mile away from the house, in the opposite direction. We both learned from each other our radius of scent and sense is at least 2 miles. Quite a lot, for a nose. Allow me to enlighten you a bit, sensei. Among the team, there's a young Hyuga. His eyes. Kakashi just now noticed that Naruto's eyes have turned a few shades lighter. Was it like that before? For how long? Did he absorb a Hyuga? And if so, is he able to use their ability? Should it even be a bloodline limit, through those he has absorbed? Does that also mean he can use Danzo's Sharingan? The copy nin rubbed his head in frustration. Too many questions. I am a shinobi of Konoha, sensei. He walked past the man and started back towards Tazuna's house. Perhaps you shouldn't see me as a threat to my own village. I don't know how your ability works. Perhaps you take over personalities too. The Junin followed after him. Danzo, in many ways, was a threat to his own village. You have but rumors for that. Naruto instantly countered. We should hurry, the Konoha Junin will surely see through the Kage Bunshin we left behind. Hoa, my eternal rival. Naruto's left eyebrow went up at the sudden scream from the Konoha Junin. He and Kakashi made it back before the reinforcements got to the house. From all the memories inside of him, he could easily tell who the 4 new arrivals were. Courtesy of. The Junin was Maida Guy, one of the few elite Junin Konoha held. In Danzo's route Anbu, there were only few that could go toe-to-toe with this man. This was Konoha's taijutsu expert. A carbon copy, much younger, stood next to him. This was to be Konoha's next taijutsu expert. Rock Lee, a promising genin, even though he would never be able to perform either ninjutsu or genjutsu. Then there was Hyuga Neji, supposedly a genius prodigy. Naruto couldn't wait to kick this boy's teeth through the back of his skull, just from the arrogance this boy was exuding. He hadn't absorbed a Hyuga, but according to Kurama the Byakugan was derived from the eyes he was sporting. Already he was learning new things with his eyes. Perhaps absorbing a Hyuga could help with this. Preferably one from the main house. The final member of Team Guy was Tenten, one of the very few current Konoha genin who was a bit talented in Fuinjutsu. Her specialty though, lay in weapons. All of them. Naruto grinned because, thanks to Zabuza, he was now immensely proficient with the sword that currently rested in Tezuna's house. Ah, Guy, did you just arrive? This must be one of your promising young students. Naruto nodded his head enthusiastically and screamed back. I am the amazing Uzumaki Naruto. Never heard of this kid. Neji thought. Looks like he just picked up some clothes from the ground somewhere and put them on. Was Tenten's first thought. Naruto had his entire attire changed the day after Sasuke had made a cruel comment about it. That was when Kakashi made them get to know one another a bit better. Naruto wore an oversized light gray long-sleeved t-shirt. His hands were hidden from view, but Kakashi had already spotted gauntlets underneath. Naruto's collarbone and even the upper part of his chest was in full view. His shorts reached till below his knees and was also oversized, colored dark gray. His sandals were black and seemed very worn out. The Hite 8 from Konoha was lazily, but tightly, spun around the right sandal. It was very bent because of that and hardly noticeable. Yosh, my name is Rock Lee. May we both become legendary Konoha shinobi, Naruto-kun. Naruto gladly shook Lee's hand. Yes, we will. Your student will become very strong, Kakashi. Guy commented from the side. How goes the mission? Well, here the gray-haired veteran scratched the back of his head. So far we've already dealt with Kiri's demon brothers, Momochi Zabuza and a hunter Nin from Kiri. He was speaking as if it was no big deal, but Guy was a bit shocked. Your first C-ranked mission and you run into an A-ranked nuke Nin? Even Neji was shocked. Yeah, but Kakashi-sensei handled them all with ease. Naruto quickly explained with a thumbs up. We didn't even have to do anything. Obviously. Neji sneered, at which Naruto simply pointed his thumbs up at him. Amazing. As expected of my eternal rival. Ma, it was no big deal. Let's get inside and say hello to the rest of my team. Naruto, stay outside and keep guard. A few minutes after they stepped inside, Naruto summoned Zabuza, Haku, Danzo and the 5 root Anbu he had absorbed. Kill Gato. Zabuza and Haku will lead the way. There shouldn't be any strong people left. Danzo, if possible, transfer all his money to your account. Even without his sword, Zabuza was still very powerful. This will also let him know how far his Shinzui Bunshin could travel from him. If necessary, he will just join this hunt. As Team Guy and Team 7 got ready for the trek back home, Neji couldn't help but notice the huge sword on Naruto's back. But it was Tenten that asked about it. Hey, that's Kabikuri Hucho. It's one of the legendary swords, wielded by Momochi Zabuza, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Why are you carrying it? She couldn't contain her excitement one bit. Ah, well, Kakashi didn't need it and I'm the only one in our team that can fight with swords. Sasuke twitched and Sakura's mouth dropped open. They didn't know Naruto could handle swords. Hell, they didn't even believe it. Ho? How about a spar, then? Your name was Naruto, right? I don't spar, was Naruto's instant response. It reveals my techniques. Clever. Sasuke and Sakura were surprised to see Kakashi appear next to the blonde. But sparring is a necessary way of training. It helps you get ready for an opponent who could be similar to your sparring partner. Yeah, see? Let's spar, Naruto. Naruto simply ignored Tenten. I don't think it's wise to spar with this sword, sensei. Ho, how courageous. Young Naruto-kun is afraid he will hurt you, Tenten. Guy was just as sneaky as Kakashi, suddenly appearing behind the until now silent Lee and Neji. Oh, how truly wonderful. Naruto-kun is amazing. Lee instantly joined. Tenten, however, wasn't as amused. As if a rookie genin can hurt me. Perhaps in Konoha, 1010. We should be on the move. Guy ordered. Kakashi nodded the same to his team. Neji regarded the blonde Naruto one last time, before considering him a weakling after all. The only one in Team 7 worth something was Uchiha Sasuke. Perhaps he would request a spar back in Konoha. About a minute after he had dismissed his team from the Hokage's office, a knock came to the door. Kakashi was just about to inform Hiruzen about Naruto's ability and about Danzo when Danzo walked in, followed by Naruto. Hiruzen, I come with interesting news. The Hokage started with a surprised snort. Danzo, where have you been these past 2 weeks? Actually, I was just about to say. Kakashi tried to start, but Danzo stepped next to him and silenced him with a wave of his hand. I was busy killing Gato in Wave Country. Here Kakashi narrowed his eyes. I felt it necessary because he was becoming a threat to the greater nations. I thought I have forbidden you from taking such actions, Danzo. The office was suddenly filled with a menacing presence. Hiruzen glared at Danzo, but seemed to suddenly notice Naruto. Quote ellipsis. Why is Naruto here? He was surprised. Danzo chuckled at the question. He has absorbed me, Hiruzen. That's why I went missing. Hiruzen's head snapped to Naruto quicker than any thought possible. Wa, Naruto? It's true, the blonde admitted. The night after Kakashi failed me, Sakura and Sasuke, Danzo approached me. I managed to touch him. But, Hiruzen blinked at the sudden information. That means that people you absorb stay alive? Kakashi sighed to himself. It seemed everything he wanted to say would be said by either his student or Danzo. Yes, they stay alive in a way. You know what that means, right? It means I never killed Iruka-sensei or Mizuki. They're still alive. Naruto started to explain, but they cannot live for long as the only thing keeping them alive outside of my body is my chakra. Quite similar to elemental bunshin, actually. I've experimented a bit and it seems. Naruto chose to lie in this instant, as both Kakashi and Hiruzen could become enemies. Who knows what the future held? The limit is a mile. After a mile, they die like any normal person would. They are automatically returned to you? I can choose to dispel them, which will make them return to me automatically, yes. He answered Hiruzen's question next. But when they die, I can choose to absorb them back or just let them die. They're not returned automatically. Naruto's brain started working instantly here. Which means, if they, or any other opponent, fight me, they would probably kill my Shinzui Bunshin and prevent me from absorbing them again. So before they die, I should dispel them. In truth though, the Shinzui Bunshin could move farther and they would be dispelled when moving too far, returning back to the summoner. What an ability, Naruto. I'm still getting used to it. He admitted. Kakashi-sensei is kinda giving me a hard time because of this ability. That was understandable, though. To everyone's surprise, it was Danzo who reacted. Kakashi was probably informed of my disappearance and learned on this mission that you were responsible for it. In clearer words, it means you attacked a fellow shinobi in Konoha. But that was self-defense. A lie, but no one needed to know that. Danzo inwardly grimaced, but went along with it. He didn't have a choice in the matter, anyway. Naruto's orders, to him, were absolute. Indeed, I did attack him that night. But only to scare him. I never thought this would be the consequence of my action. So now you just follow Naruto around? Hiruzen asked skeptically. Why? How does this work? Danzo's expression hardened here. I am dead, Hiruzen. The only way I still live is if he summons me. He can choose to dispel me anytime he wishes. Then why don't you kill him, Danzo? Hiruzen's expression was also hardened. Kakashi gulped nervously, while Naruto just seemed amused. It seems your hearing is failing you in your old age, Hiruzen. As mentioned before, the only thing keeping me semi-alive is his chakra. If he dies, his chakra will go with him. Which in turn means, I die, too. Danzo snorted. I would do many things frowned upon in life, but suicide is not one of them. Perhaps you should inform Hokage-sama about your other absorbees? The only genin in the office raised an eyebrow in question at Kakashi. You're gonna call them absorbees? What do you call them, then, Naruto? The oldest in the office asked. Hiruzen was slightly older than Danzo. Shinzui Bunshin, clone of essence, was the easy answer to Hiruzen. But absorbees is possible too? Or insiders? Re-humans? Second chancers? The undead? Wait, that's wrong, they're really dead, so. The unliving? Enough. Tell me who you have absorbed so far. Fine. Instead of answering, Naruto summoned everyone, and easily too, Hiruzen noticed. Introduce yourselves, the blonde ordered. They couldn't disobey. Toji Mizuki, the silver-haired Chunin, wasn't looking at the fire leader. Amino Uruka, the former teacher, offered an apologetic look. Shimura Danzo. This surprised both Hiruzen and Kakashi, since Danzo was already present. But it seemed the order went to everyone. Interesting fact, Yamanaka Fu, the root Anbu, removed his mask to reveal orange hair and blue eyes. Aburame Torun, the one with the acid bugs, Hiruzen recalled. Nara Hio, the promising Nara orphan that vanished from the academy years ago. Hiruzen should have known. Fuma Yukio, a purple-haired 20-something-year-old woman. Her hair reached past her collarbone and her eyes were also purple. Hiruzen looked slightly surprised. Of course Danzo would recruit outside of Konoha. Knowing the old Warhawk, he would recruit only the best, too. The Fuma clan was known for their talent with chakra threads. Kedwin Akari, the fifth and final root agent. This woman had her long dark green hair tied in a ponytail reaching just above her butt. Her appearance could be a lie, though, as their ability to impersonate another was unrivaled. Yuki Haku. Hiruzen's eyes and Kakashi's eyes widened as the identity of the Kiri hunter Nin was now revealed. To think Naruto could summon the last of the Yuki clan. Momochi Zabuza. His name alone was enough for the people in the office to know who this was. The Devil of the Mist. Naruto seemed a bit bored as he stood behind his army. Hey, old man, is this enough? I'm kind of on a tight schedule. Naruto, I order you to refrain from touching anyone in Konoha. I can tell you're not wearing the gloves I gave you under those long sleeves. Care to tell me why you're wearing others? Don't worry about it, I can control my ability. Besides, those gloves make me look suspicious. These make me look cool. He pulled one of his sleeves up and revealed a dark gray gauntlet. But it seems I wasn't original, those two demon brothers wore similar gauntlets, he complained a bit. Grabbing his smoke pipe and getting ready to smoke from it, Hiruzen shot the people in the office an exasperated look. Can you dispel your army, Naruto? This office is kind of small. Huh? But you asked me to. Naruto got cut off. I asked you to tell me, not show me. Everyone disappeared, except for Danzo. Hiruzen, I have things to discuss. I think you should dismiss Hitaki Kakashi first. Kakashi felt like he was out of his depth already, anyway. I have information on Orochimaru's whereabouts. As soon as Kakashi had left, Danzo started. You're probably wondering why I'm going to share this information. Yes, I am. I always knew you were keeping things from me, don't take me for a fool. You should know I let you. I know you let me. You still feel a form of comradeship with me. Believe it or not, I feel the same. Hiruzen's expression didn't change. So, why are you telling me this now? I have many alliances across the nations, Hiruzen. Now that I am no longer alive, I can break all of them and betray them all. One such alliance I am quite eager to destroy. The alliance with Orochimaru. Blowing some smoke out, Hiruzen glared at his rival. Naruto was seated in one of the two chairs in front of the Hokage's desk, Danzo in the other. He was actually regarded as an equal now. I can't say I'm surprised. Surely you joined hands with my wayward student to reach for the Hokage's title? He shook his head in disappointment. Why you always slither towards your goals will always be the question. It is in the past now. We can both be rest assured. Now with this trump card, with Naruto's ability and him being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Konoha has jumped up in strength. I believe we should make a preemptive strike. Preemptive? A war is coming, Hiruzen. I know for a fact that Orochimaru is meeting with the Case Cage in a few days. Why should I believe that? A dead man has no reason to lie. Have you heard of Otogakure? The Sound Village? I've heard a bit. Nothing good. Around the region many people have been reported missing. Many shinobi. Exactly. Otogakure is Orochimaru's newly formed village. I wish to bring it to the ground. He has many promising shinobi I wish for young Naruto to absorb. Everything he knows I know, old man. Naruto interjected. He didn't really come up with this plan. I learned of a few interesting shinobi with bloodline limits that currently reside within Oto. I wish for them to become mine. Your ability is changing you, Naruto. I don't know if that is necessarily a good thing. Care to tell me what Kekkei Genkei interests you? He has a Kagaya, a Hazuka and a Shoten user, but that is all that Danzo knows. There are more, most likely. Quote, Before we can do all that, however, I believe we should take care of one of my hidden soldiers first. With hidden soldier, Danzo clearly meant a root Enbu disguising as a normal Konoha shinobi. And who would that be? Yakushi Kabuto. He is actually working for Orochimaru, too. Perhaps absorbing him will tell us more. Danzo suggested, but he is a Konoha shinobi currently. Won't he be missed? He's a fake, Hiruzen. He has nobody tied to him in Konoha. The Sandaime put his pipe down and considered the two in front of him. Scheming to take down an entire village. You're sure a war is coming? Danzo and Naruto both didn't want to tell too much. Yes, a war is definitely coming. I don't know why he has requested a meeting with the Case Cage, but I know Orochimaru was sending 2 auto teams to participate in the coming Chunin exams. He would instigate a war during these exams. That is all I know. The veteran sighed. Regrettably, I would help him. I apologize, Hiruzen, but I agreed to let him and his army enter Konoha unnoticed. What was your price? The killing intent from the third didn't come unexpected. Danzo didn't really care much for it since he was already dead. They needed to be careful here since they needed the third's trust. Danzo stood from his chair and unraveled the bandages around his right shoulder. Orochimaru's experiments. He wasn't doing them alone. I was in on it, through Root. In fact, Orochimaru was one of my Root Anbu. The killing intent grew and Naruto had to clench his fists to stay unaffected. When the old Sarutobi saw Danzo's shoulder, it intensified. You dared. Such sacrilege. The Shodem's blood. Yes. Senju Hashirama's blood. I need his help to control it. He was the one experimenting, but you found out about it before we reached a conclusion. He never finished this particular experiment. I cannot control this power. Old man, please don't attack Danzo? Hiruzen coldly ignored Naruto. That's why you still need Orochimaru? Although he didn't need the snake anymore, thanks to Naruto's ability. Yes, he still lied. What is your plan, then? Or should I ask Naruto? Yes, you should ask me. With a flick of his fingers, Danzo was gone, absorbed back into Naruto to Hiruzen's amazement. I have all of his abilities, old man. All of his and all of theirs, combined, not averaged. Accumulated. Quote. That's impossible, you can't control that much chakra. No, I can't. Not alone. Here, Naruto grinned. But I'm not alone. The Sandaime narrowed his eyes. The ones you absorb help you control it inside of you? No, the Kyuubi helps me. You can't trust it, Naruto. This ability of yours is frightening enough. Old man, don't worry, I still want to become Hokage and protect Konoha until I die. The blonde put a finger to his chin. Danzo wanted to go to Otogakure immediately, but I think that's a mistake. He agrees with me now, I'm sure. We can't let Orochimaru know we already know of his plans. Yakushi Kabuto is set to participate in the coming Chunin exams as well. I'll absorb that traitor during the exams, Hokage-sama. And why then? If I do it now, Orochimaru will surely grow suspicious. Naruto? Hiruzen rose from his chair. Tell me, what have you learned from and of your ability so far? A nervous chuckle was the first answer. Well, according to the Kyuubi, this ability is ancient and said to have died off long ago. He said the Sage of the Six Paths killed the last user of this ability personally. The Sage of the Six Paths? The first chakra-wielding man? Yes. Apparently, this ability was wielded once before, and only once. By the brother of the sage. What an eventful day. Tell me about it. Inside of Naruto's mindscape, Himura's eyes, they are still somewhat alive today, in the eyes of the Hyuga. Kurama started. They look similar, I have observed, but they are far weaker. Hamura could do things with his eyes the Hyuga need extra techniques for. The Byakugan is a weaker version of what Hamura carried. I have already noticed a few things, Kurama. Naruto grinned. When I want to see something farther ahead in clearer view, my view automatically zooms in on what I want to see, being able to even see through trees and stuff. Yes, like the Byakugan, your eyes can see through objects. It means you can also see inside human bodies. I believe you should focus on that specifically. Hamura could let the insides of men explode just by looking at them, but at the cost of temporary blindness. The Hyuga seem to have developed the Jukin to copy this element of the Dujutsu. The Hyuga can't do anything with just a glance, they need the chakra gathered in a specific way in their fingers to do damage inside a body. I believe you don't need this gentle fist style. I'll experiment with my Shinzui Bunshin. Let's see what these eyes can do. Sasuke was doing some standard taijutsu practice when Naruto approached the training grounds Team 7 often frequented. Kakashi and Sakura hadn't arrived yet. You're early, dead last. Couldn't carry the sword with you? He left Zabuza's sword in a scroll in one of his pockets. If he ever summoned Zabuza, he would summon the sword as well. I left it somewhere safe. Sasuke went back to his kata, intent on ignoring his useless teammate. The young Uchiha was frustrated. So far, their missions hadn't given him any increase in strength. Their latest mission could have, if Kakashi hadn't done all the work. Really, what's the point if the Junin was going to do everything? He hadn't even activated his Sharingan yet. That Hyuga boy from the other team requested a spar, but Sasuke already knew the outcome of that spar. Neji would wipe the floor with him. He didn't like losing, so he told the older boy he wasn't in the mood to fight weaklings. First, the Sharingan, then he would beat everyone into submission. Then, he would kill Itachi. Nay, Sasuke? I'm busy, dead last. But you're doing it wrong. He dares? Instead of bothering to reply, Sasuke dashed towards Naruto and got ready to plant a heavy elbow in the blonde's face. I'll show you Ron OMFFFF. Naruto instead planted his fist in the Uchiha's stomach and followed up by grabbing Sasuke by the collar calmly. See? You would be able to dodge this fist otherwise? He couldn't dodge Naruto's fist in his face and was sent careening to the ground in immense pain. Naruto didn't hold back in strength. I'm done holding back, Sasuke. And I'm done hearing you call me dead last. I thought we went over that already? Was that necessary, Naruto? Turning around, Naruto nodded his head in certainty. He had sensed Kakashi and Sakura approaching them seconds ago. It was. He needs to activate his Sharingan. I'll kick it into his eyes. I request a spar, Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke managed to rise from the ground and spat out blood to his right. Naruto simply grinned at the Uchiha's sneer. Kakashi seemed hesitant, but understood Naruto's logic. He would allow this spar if Sasuke accepted. Sakura hadn't seen what happened but was confused. Naruto wanted to spar with Sasuke. He was about to get his ass kicked and he was smiling about it? You're on. Sasuke readied himself. Dead last. He spat out in contempt. Naruto's look hardened considerably. You've done it now. He was still shaking off the pain from the previous blows. Since when could the dead last hit so hard? He shouldn't have underestimated him. If he hadn't, those blows would have never connected. It was time to kick this loser's ass. Time to show Kakashi that he was done wasting time doing these useless chores, these D-ranked missions. You're on, dead last. He watched in satisfaction as frustration glowed on Naruto's face. You've done it now. The blonde turned to Kakashi. It's on, then. You're going to pay for those 2 hits, loser. Sasuke started as he bent his knees a bit. I'm going to show you just why you're the dead last and I'm top of the class. Hey, Sakura-chan? Sasuke twitched a bit as Naruto ignored him and waved for Sakura's attention. Who do you think's going to win between me and Sasuke? What? What kind of dumb question is that? Sasuke-kun, of course. You were the worst student in our class, he was the best. Kakashi wasn't too sure if this was a good idea as Naruto's grin seemed to radiate pure evil. Exactly, were and was. Naruto agreed. How about? Without any warning a shadow clone sprang into life next to Naruto. Kakashi saw the quick hand seals, but Sakura and Sasuke didn't. The dead last's cage Bunshin beats the shit out of Sasuke. That's it. Sasuke's patience ran out after that. He couldn't wait and dashed forward in impressive speed, intent on teaching his teammate a lesson. Only to get his movement forcefully stopped. You're pretty fast. The grip was so tight. The grip on his neck was too tight. He could only try and stop Naruto from choking him any further as he tried to pry Naruto's left hand away from his neck with both his hands. I'm just a cage Bunshin, but even I can kill you easily now. Calmly, he lifted his left arm up and started performing one-handed seals. Sasuke's struggles were not loosening his grip one bit. Sasuke-kun. Sakura's eyes were widened at the sight of Naruto's cage Bunshin holding Sasuke by the throat. The real Naruto slowly walked over to Kakashi and Sakura. Can you believe it? He can't even beat one of my shadow clones. One-handed seals? How did he learn those? From Danzo? Kakashi couldn't believe it when he saw Naruto's fingers get surrounded by water. Small water blades. Water affinity? Naruto, let him go. Sakura yelled as she glared at both Narutos. What are you talking about, Sakura-chan? You said he would beat me, right? Have some confidence in him. He chuckled softly. Or perhaps, do you think Sasuke can't beat me, after all? The Kage Bunshin flicked Sasuke in the right cheek with his chakra-enhanced fingers, creating 3 bleeding whisker marks. Hey, boss. He kinda looks like us now. Naruto, you've won, let him go. Kakashi started as he took a step forward. Nay, Kakashi-sensei? The real Naruto was still smiling. Did you also believe Sasuke would beat me? The other way around, would you have stopped Sasuke? He nodded upwards at his shadow clone. Sasuke was rapidly losing consciousness. Right then, the shadow clone dropped him to the ground and glared at the struggling Uchiha. Having trouble breathing? Ha 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 ha. Both Naruto and the real Naruto started laughing. You see that? The top of the class can't even defeat the worst student's clone. The clone. Wiping the blood from his right cheek, Sasuke managed to lift himself up a bit as he supported himself on his knees. After a few seconds of catching his breath, he glared up at Naruto and decided. Fine, you're stronger than I thought, Naruto. I'll take you seriously now. I don't want to fight your clone, or are you scared to deal with me yourself? The laughter coming from Naruto and his clone had slowly been dying down, but when Sasuke uttered those words there was a slight pause and then, the laughter returned tenfold. But then the laughing abruptly stopped, the Kage Bunshin vanished and killing intent unlike any even Kakashi had ever felt filled the clearing. Sasuke was frozen on the spot due to the killing intent when the real Naruto suddenly appeared right before him. Hey, Sasuke? The first punch hurt more than anything he had ever felt. It felt like he lost his entire nose in one clean hit. But Naruto didn't stop there and hit him again, right between the eyes. Sasuke's sight vanished for a few seconds but returned instantly when the third blow, a kick this time, plowed straight through his stomach. Stop. You're hurting him. Sakura was sobbing. Kicking him in the side one more time, Naruto stopped to throw Sakura a gaze of incredulity. Whatever could you be talking about? A dead last like me could never hurt a genius like Sasuke. A grin popped up on his face out of nowhere. Right? She dropped to her knees as Naruto grabbed Sasuke by the collar and hit him in the right eye hard. Hey. Another blow. And another blow. Kakashi was clenching his fists. He didn't know what to do. Just when he was about to step in, Naruto stopped peppering the Uchiha with blows, but he still held him by his collar. Call me a dead last one more time. He held his fist in front of the Uchiha's face, whose right eye was now swollen shut. Sighing, he dropped the Uchiha to the ground. This is what I mean, you know. Turning away from Sasuke, he started walking back towards Sakura and Kakashi again. See, Sakura-chan? You were wrong. You were so wrong. Dead wrong. Not only was he not able to beat me, he was not able to beat even a clone of me. So there, you have the true answer to my question. The pink-haired girl didn't respond as she was a sobbing mess. He turned to Kakashi. Thank you for not interfering, sensei. Could you heal him? I think he won't underestimate me from now on. I want to spar with him again. You hurt him pretty badly, Naruto. I can perform only basic Iryu ninjutsu. Kakashi took a quick glance to the fallen Uchiha, who was struggling to even crawl. Maybe we should take him to the hospital. Memories and skills from Haku gave him a better understanding in medic ninjutsu than Kakashi, so he merely grinned at the older nin. The injuries Sasuke had picked up in the little spar, if one could call it that, were still quite minimal. Kakashi just didn't want them fighting anymore. That's fine, I know Iryu ninjutsu too. Why doesn't that surprise me? Kakashi glowered a bit. Rein in a bit of your killer intent, sensei. I am kind of sensitive to it. Before he moved for Sasuke, he turned to Sakura once more. Before I heal that bastard, let me ask the question again, Sakura-chan. Who do you think will win between me and Sasuke? Sakura glared at him and refused to answer. Her blonde teammate merely sent her a meaningful glance back. I want to be Hokage, sensei. The leader of Konoha. I don't want to be a leader of a village filled with weak shinobi. He moved for Sasuke. The sooner he gets his Sharingan, the better. I'm going to help Sasuke get really strong. Despite being in pain, Sasuke heard all the words as Naruto was approaching him. He heard his teammate's footsteps stop next to him and suddenly felt chakra on him. Was Naruto healing him? Sasuke, let's try that again. Every feint he performed, excellently he might add, was dealt with a shrug and a casual evasion here and there. Every well-thought-out strategy, every well-planned attack, they were all useless. It was as if Naruto knew exactly what he was thinking. They had been sparring for almost 10 minutes now and he could already feel his muscles screaming at him to stop. But no, that was unacceptable. He hadn't even landed a single blow on his teammate. The dead last was, he was just too good. Every kick or punch, every shuriken and kunai, even his Gukakyu no jutsu he had unleashed in perfect manner. Nothing even came close to touching him. As he was panting and analyzing the blonde's movements, he started realizing something. Naruto was better than him, in everything. But he also realized that he liked this. He was finally facing someone who pushed him to his limits. He didn't expect Naruto to be this good of a teammate. Now he had a goal. To surpass Naruto and then Kakashi. If he could beat Naruto, that would be proof he was getting stronger. Of course not strong enough to beat Itachi, but it was at least a way up. A grin slowly formed on his face as he regarded Naruto with respect, and the blonde noticed. Hey, you're finally enjoying yourself, Sasuke? The Uchiha nodded once and got ready again. You deserved it. I won't call you dead last ever again. Finally, Naruto yelled out to the skies. Now let's see about activating Sharingan of yours. I'm gonna fight back now. The young Avenger sighed and knew this was going to happen. For the last few minutes, all Naruto did was dodge his attacks. All just to show him he was that good. He was dreading but waiting for this moment at the same time. It is said the Uchiha mostly activate their Sharingan in dire situations. As Naruto's fist sent him skywards, he couldn't help but hope. Sakura stared in disbelief at the sparring in front of her. Forever she had known Uchiha Sasuke to be the strongest shinobi to walk the lands. But now, watching Naruto pick his nose as he was easily dancing around all of Sasuke's attacks. Watching Naruto close his eyes and still evade all of Sasuke's attacks. Watching Naruto yawn and jump around Sasuke without even attacking back. And then, watching Naruto kick Sasuke in the neck, punch him in the back of his head, grab him and throw him all over the place. She now knew, Sasuke is not the strongest shinobi in the world. Naruto was stronger, way stronger. Of course, Kakashi and all other higher-ranked shinobi were stronger too. But Sakura didn't pay any attention to that simple fact. No, because Naruto was the dead last. The weakest and stupidest in class. And yet here he was, wiping the floor with the Uchiha prodigy with amazing ease. It was unbelievable. This wouldn't have been possible at all without all of his absorbees. Thanks to their muscle memory, their experiences, their skills and jutsu. He could see through every amateur move Sasuke was pulling off. It was all just too easy. Zabuza's speed was incredible, Danzo's even more so. Haku's speed was even faster if he used that mirror technique of his. Even Danzo's robot soldiers were fast. Thanks to all of them, Naruto was also very fast. As he landed another blow, this time a kick to Sasuke's left ear, he realized he was getting bored. He had to admit that the Uchiha was persistent. But then, Naruto was holding back a lot. After seeing Kakashi almost take action before, he decided not to pummel his teammate too much. He didn't want to be on Kakashi's bad side. Nay, Sasuke, I think you should take a break. You've got some serious injuries. The blonde suddenly stated seriously after he saw how Sasuke wasn't getting up as fast as before. Forcing your body through too much pain is never good. He's right, Sasuke. I think this was a good spar. Kakashi eyed his blonde subordinate with a deadpan look. Better than the one before. The Junin turned his head a bit to give the remaining member of Team 7 attention. What about you, Sakura? Want to spar against Naruto? And no, thanks. After seeing how easily Naruto had beaten Sasuke to the ground, she actually feared the blonde now. Tomorrow. Tomorrow? Sakura was confused. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow you will spar with Naruto. You can prepare for it. Kakashi then turned away from the pink-haired girl and crouched where Sasuke was on the ground. I'll accompany Sasuke to his home. You guys are dismissed. With a shunshin, Kakashi and Sasuke disappeared, leaving Sakura and Naruto alone. Nay, Sakura? She flinched at his sudden voice. She had still been staring at the spot where Kakashi and Sasuke were just moments before. What is it, Naruto? I'm sorry. She flinched again, though this time for a different reason, as Naruto suddenly bowed. It's just, everyone always calls me a dead last, a loser, an idiot. I was tired of it. It really gets to me, you know? This was a good chance for me to show you and Sasuke that my marks in the academy were inaccurate. The teachers really hated me, so they failed me in every subject, on purpose. A sigh came as a pause. Well, of course I also felt that Sasuke deserved that ass-kicking, but that's really beside the point. You've always been that strong? Of course not, came the immediate answer. I started training. I never liked the names everyone threw at me, so I made it my goal to prove everyone wrong. You guys are the first to witness this. Well, Sakura fidgeted a bit uncomfortably as she played a bit with her short dress. I'm sorry for calling you those names. It won't happen again. Thanks. Naruto beamed at her and Sakura suddenly saw the old cheerful Naruto again. I promise I'll be a good teammate to you and Sasuke. I also promise I'll go easy on Sasuke from now on. I just needed to let him know where he stands and where I stand, you know. What else could she do but nod at that? Tomorrow we'll spar. And don't worry, I won't fight against you like I did Sasuke. After the spar, or even after we're dismissed tomorrow. How about we train some more? I mean, Sasuke too, of course. Sakura blinked a few times as she considered this new Naruto, who seemed to ooze confidence. Yeah, maybe? How are you so sure he is in Sanagakure? What if he isn't? Even if you are with him, Naruto is still only a genin. You underestimate Naruto greatly, Hiruzen. Even if I die and he is unable to absorb me back, he will still remember all of my techniques, my skills and my experience. Knowledge like that is not easily forgotten. Danzo chuckled shortly at the fire leader. Truth was, once absorbed you learn everything Naruto knows as well. The knowledge transfers both ways. Danzo knew exactly what kind of ability Naruto had and where it came from. This is the perfect time. Only a shinobi of Orochimaru's caliber could be a problem, but since he's not there, the obvious need not be stated. Also, my Root Anbu are coming along. I know you don't trust me, but I am just a puppet here. He's right. If I hadn't absorbed Danzo, your old friend would have done nothing to stop Orochimaru. I would know, I have his memories. The blonde tapped the side of his head. His plans were to let his Anbu root ambush many of the Konoha Anbu from the shadows, so Orochimaru would have an easier time. This won't happen now. Naruto actually glared at the old warhawk. I fight for Konoha and I will destroy everyone who wants it gone. The man now turned puppet nodded his head in respect. I had my reasons, Hiruzen. I could apologize for my future actions, but that's absurd. It hasn't happened and it won't. And the reason I had was you'd led Konoha astray. Now that it doesn't matter anymore, I think you should know my motives. Konoha has grown weak. Other countries will take advantage of it. I will not see the great tree of the fire country wither. And now, he looked at Naruto here. It won't. Naruto has great plans and I support them completely. The third frowned at Danzo. Konoha hasn't grown weak, Danzo. You just want war and supremacy, to let all other shinobi villages know Konoha is the strongest. It's not about being the strongest anymore. We live in an era where we can all prosper together. Always with the naive talk. You and I will never come to terms with this. The shinobi world is a world filled with backstabbers and opportunists. Stop being the idealist, Hiruzen. What say you, Naruto? The blonde in question shrugged at both old men. It was weird, but their banter almost seemed friendly. I don't know. I don't really care either. All I want is to be Hokage. No, all I want is to be Hokage of the most powerful village. We don't need to go to war with other villages for that. Konoha's shinobi will just be the strongest. They need to be. I don't want to lead a weak village. I want to lead the best. TCH. How can you know you're the strongest without knowing how strong the other villages are? Besides that, being the strongest will come with problems. Other villages will be intimidated, their leaders not pleased. You see now how it's impossible to avoid conflict. War is inevitable, because just like you, Naruto. Danzo grinned at the Jinchuriki. The Raikage wants his village to be the strongest too. So does the Mizukage, Kazekage and the Tsuchikage. Kumogakure especially, seems to be readying themselves for war as the Raikage is pushing his shinobi extremely. Your dream is not unique, it's basic. You can't only want to be the strongest, you need more. Naruto chuckled shortly at Danzo. I don't care what the other leaders want, Danzo. I know what I want and that's all that matters. You're missing the point. Conflict is unavoidable because of the simple matter called clients. All villages need money and it comes from missions. All missions come from clients. Clients will go to the best or strongest available. If you're the strongest, the other villages will fall because they won't be getting any missions. They want missions, however. I assume you see how that plays out. I don't care. Naruto shrugged. As long as Konoha remains standing. And then Danzo turned to Hiruzen and grinned. We might differ in certain opinions and we might walk different roads, but the end goal Naruto and I share is the same. As long as Konoha stands strong. He nodded to the fire leader, hoping that explained all of his behavior. That's all I want. Hiruzen had his eyes narrowed at Naruto, however. This is all just talk. Suppose you are suitable to become the fire leader, you're decades away from becoming Hokage. You're still young, pure and naive. Your views change as you go through life. You know nothing yet, Naruto? On the contrary, Hiruzen? Danzo countered as he also turned to focus on Naruto. He knows everything I know. You could even say he saw you, like I have. Turning from the young genin you were into one of the strongest shinobi, the professor, in the world now. That's how you should view this ability of his. It was like he was right there next to us. Really, why did she have to take him to the weapon shop? Just because her family owned the store didn't mean her entire team could take advantage of discount or anything. Didn't they know her father was a no-nonsense man? Guy Sensei doesn't understand anything. She herself didn't even get discount from her father. She didn't mind any of her teammates, as long as they weren't around her too much off duty. Normally they weren't, especially Neji. But today Guy Sensei insisted she take Lee to the shop for some new wrist weights and ankle weights. Ten was persuaded because Guy Sensei said he'd buy her sets of explosive tags. 4 at least, she had demanded. Weights. That had been going on for about 10 minutes now. Ten shot an exasperated glare over her shoulder as Lee was following her to the store. If him screaming, weights, wasn't enough of an attention grabber, him walking backwards on his hands definitely was. How annoying. She was tempted to throw a kunai in one of his wrists just to make him fail his own stupid bet. If he couldn't follow Ten walking backwards on the palms of his hands without letting the 5 small pebbles on each sole of his feet fall, he would carry Ten on the soles of his feet next while making the same trip twice. Like she would let him. From the corner of her eye she saw the blonde kid from Kakashi's team suddenly stroll into the street they were walking in. Hey, you're the kid with the huge sword. Not feeling perverted, Naruto decided to shrug at the girl. She was yelling at him, they were quite a distance from each other. Ten, which in turn meant Lee as well, had stopped walking as Naruto made his way over to them. Where's the girl of your team? Turning red in fury, she pointed a finger at the blonde. I'm the girl of the team, you moron. Waving his hands in a calming gesture, Naruto grinned at her. Of course. I mean the guy who looks like a girl. He doesn't look like a girl. You mean Neji? You guys are Ten and Rock Lee, right? Yeah? She was embarrassed now, because she totally forgot this kid's name. It looked like he didn't notice. So, how's the sword doing? Oh, you mean the Kabikari Haucho? Well, it's not in top shape at the moment, because it needs more blood to repair itself. Ten blinked. What a weird way of saying he needed to train more with it. Well, I'm not bad with swords. How about we have a spar now? She remembered him having turned down the offer before in Wave. The younger Genin shook his head resolutely. No, the Chunin exams is soon and I don't to reveal my tricks. You're participating too, right? Yeah, we're also wait. You're in them too? You're just a rookie. How incredible. You must be amazingly talented. Rock Lee was still not facing them and was still standing on his hands. Naruto didn't quite know how to deal with the weird boy so he kept facing Ten. Well, our team is also in it, despite us being rookies, yeah. I've heard your other teammate was also Rookie of the Year, like Sasuke was. Neji is the strongest genin in Konoha. Lee responded again, but I will defeat him one day and prove that a genius of hard work can beat any other genius. Sure, Naruto responded, still facing Ten. Ten understood. Lee and I are a close second, though. You don't know what Kakashi-san has thrown you into. The grin he gave her was actually intimidating, Ten felt. Oh I do. Best of luck to you Ten-Ten-san and Lee-san. May we meet each other in the exams. We don't need the luck, kid. Ten-Ten yelled after the departing blonde. My name's Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. He threw a knowing smile over his shoulder in her direction. Try to remember it this time. Yo, Kakashi-sensei. The old veteran sighed to himself as he was crouching on a tree branch reading his Icha-Icha. His subordinates weren't supposed to show up for another 5 minutes and he himself wasn't supposed to show up for another 2 hours. He forgot one of his students was a very talented sensor nin though. Naruto used a quick shunshin to appear on a tree branch close to the one Kakashi was crouching on. I want to summon Haku to train Sakura a bit. Do I have your permission, Kakashi-sensei? Haku's from the Yuki clan, right? The hunter nin that was with Zabuza? Yeah, Sakura has a very high chakra control and I think she could really benefit from learning some basic Iryu ninjutsu. Haku knows plenty of those. Closing his book and scratching his chin, Kakashi considered the possibility. Well, my knowledge in Iryu ninjutsu is very limited and from what I understand you already know Haku's is more advanced than mine, right? Kakashi didn't need an answer, he was good in analyzing. You have complete control over them, right? Yeah, both Sasuke and Sakura don't know your special skills yet and both of them haven't seen Haku before. How are you going to explain that? I'll just tell them the truth? The Chunin exams are coming up soon and I don't want them surprised when I summon some awesome friends to help me out. Somehow I don't think they consider you as a friend, Naruto. What? Why not? You killed them? You're using them as tools? I think you're exaggerating, sensei. Kakashi didn't know whether Naruto was joking or not. I think it's best, however, that you keep your skill a secret. The best secret, after all, is the one never spilled. You can simply summon Haku now and I'll supposedly bring him along. Young genin talk even when they're not supposed to. I'm fairly certain Sakura will talk about your and Sasuke's skills to other people. I'm not worried about Sasuke, because he doesn't talk to other people. That sounds about right. Naruto nodded his agreement. Very well. Smoothly, Haku walked out of Naruto's body and took in his surroundings. It still surprises me. Haku started as he stared at both Naruto and Kakashi. You killed me, yet I still live. I can see, hear, smell, feel, and probably taste as well. He then turned to Kakashi. You shouldn't worry, Kakashi-san. I cannot disobey Naruto's command, as I am now a mere extension of his existence. It's actually very similar to the Kage Bunshin, sensei. Naruto butted in, except for the fact that they don't dispel after a single strike. I can honestly say that this ability of yours will make you a force of nature, Naruto. The Junin was still eyeing Haku warily. Why did this boy look like a girl so much? I will fight for Konoha, sensei. I will also always be your subordinate. The same way my Shinzui Bunshin listened to my commands, I will listen to yours, I promise. The copycat snorted in amusement. You're starting to become a real danger already, Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura are both on their way here. The blonde informed Kakashi. You still don't want to be on time? Let me talk with Haku about the training while you go and entertain your teammates, Naruto. You do know Haku's a guy, right? It was the first time he actually saw Kakashi glare, so he quickly jumped out of the tree. Whoa tilde. That's impossible. Her voice was dead serious. She would feel the exact same way though, if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes herself. This time the training was real pleasant, as Kakashi-sensei had brought a very female-looking young man with him to train her in medic ninjutsu. Her spar with Naruto was postponed because of him. She was still kind of tired though and ran into Team 10 on her way back home. Shikamaru said he was tired and went home and Choji said dinner was waiting for him, so this left Ino and Sakura alone. The blonde girl from Team 10 had started angrily about how Sakura probably wanted to boast about being on Sasuke's team, which was kind of correct. But less so, since she had seen Sasuke being taken down a peg by the dead last. She was telling this to Ino, but of course the blonde wouldn't believe her. Did you hit your head, forehead? Must have been one huge stone. Shut up, Ino pig. I'm telling you, Naruto's gotten way stronger since the academy. The pink-haired genin received a look of disbelief in return. Please Sakura, the day the dead last beats Sasuke-kun is the day I will worship that blonde dunce. Sakura shook her head at friend/rival. Be careful what you wish for, Ino, I'm being serious. Whatever, Sakura. Kakashi was observing his team training the water walking exercise. Naruto had shown them that he already knew it and had mentioned to him on the side that he didn't feel like hiding too many of his skills. Said blonde was instead meditating in silence on the side of the pond, while Sasuke and Sakura were standing on the water, or struggling on the water. Sakura because her chakra was slowly running out and Sasuke because his chakra control was not as good yet. As he looked at the blonde genin of his team, he didn't know what to think of him. Of course, he was the son of Minato and he felt somewhat responsible for him because of that, but Naruto had also, in a way, killed Iruka, Mizuki, Zabuza, Haku, Danzo and some of Danzo's soldiers. It was weird, but Naruto was kind of frightening him. The blonde could probably dispatch him just by calling on Danzo alone. The thought that a genin could do this to a Junin was. Kakashi was wary to say the least. But Naruto was still Naruto. This skill wouldn't change him. He could see through masks quite easily, as he was a master of seeing underneath the underneath. But wasn't Naruto the same in this regard? The young boy wore a mask of happiness throughout his entire childhood. And now with so many different personalities sealed inside of him, would they become masks for him to also wear? Would he have too many masks to realize he's wearing a mask and forget there's a little boy underneath? Kakashi hoped not. This simply meant one thing. Keep an eye on him, stay close to him and try to get a better read on him. He didn't need Hokage-sama's order for that. He felt like doing it for Naruto's father. The way I understand it, you've accumulated quite some dangerous fighting types and skills. Above that, you say your chakra is also accumulated, not averaged. It's true. And it's impossible to wield it all at once, so Kyuubi's keeping most of the amounts with him. Unlike me, a Biju can control such a massive amount. Please enlighten me on how you and the Kyuubi seem to be working so well together. Naruto and the third Hokage were walking through a hidden tunnel underneath the Hokage Tower. They were heading for an area that the third often frequented to train. Well, apparently this skill I've inherited comes from the Otsutsuki clan. I told you about it before, right? The sage of the six paths was called Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Here's the interesting part. The Kyuubi regards the sage as his father. Hagoromo actually freed all of the Biju as they were stuck inside of the 10 tails. The Kyuubi told you this? Why should I believe it and why are you so easily believing it? I've seen the past, old man. The Kyuubi has shown me. Whether or not those images were real or not is of course still the same question, but I trust Kurama. Kurama? The Kyuubi just means 9 tails. He has a name, it's Kurama. Go on with your story. Well, in the past, all the Biju and the Sage of the Six Paths had to fight many enemies. Their biggest enemy was their mother, who wanted to rule the world through a permanent illusion. She was beaten by Hagoromo and his brother, Otsutsuki Hamura. Hamura's skill is the very same I now wield. This power consumes you and eventually Hamura also wanted to rule the world. You're already speaking as if the same will not happen to you. That's true. Hamura didn't have any help. He had no one who supported him, he only had the people he had absorbed. I on the other hand, have Kurama. He's my comrade. He has already helped me a lot. If it weren't for him, it would have taken a much longer time for me to get used to this ability. And in the end, I would have become a fragmented person. Probably, I would have turned out the same way as Hamura. Hiruzen just didn't know what to think of this ridiculous situation. Here he was, taking a genin to his private training area. A genin, who could very well now be one of his strongest soldiers in Konoha. No, he would surely be, if even the Kyuubi inside of him was completely cooperating with him. I want to fight you and I don't want you to hold back. The only rules are that you're not allowed to use Shinzui Bunshin and no chakra from Kurama. Alright? They had reached their destination. I wish to know how this ability has affected you, and only you. Hiruzen suddenly cracked a smile as he eyed his training field, about half a mile underground. Danzo never was one to train with me and actually, no one really was. Perhaps you'll be a fun training partner, Naruto. Old man, are you sure about this? Oh, I know that you have Danzo's skills and that Devil of the Mist skills. But I am the professor. I will show you why the entire world calls me this. No Biju chakra and no Shinzui Bunshin? At the third's nod, Naruto popped his fists. Excellent, I've also been wanting to test myself. It was a start. As he was observing them in the mirror, he couldn't help but marvel at the sight. It had taken him years to get to this point. He had trained as hard as he could, to the point that he couldn't even walk home in many situations. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't exhaustion or pain that he needed. It was desperation, and he couldn't believe that the one who gave him that was the dead last. Well, he couldn't really call him the dead last anymore now, could he? He would just be insulting himself even further. But even with his Sharingan out and activated, the blonde still wiped the floor with him easily. He would just be insulting himself further if a dead last could beat him so easily. He had to admit it, Naruto was strong. Very strong. Forget Kakashi, who didn't push him over his limits despite having the means. No, he could depend on Naruto who, gladly he recalled, was willing to beat him up. No one dared offend the last of the Uchiha, it seemed. Leave it to Naruto to not care about titles. A smirk touched his face for a short time. This was the first step to annihilating his brother. If he could surpass Naruto, he could surpass Kakashi after that. And perhaps after that all of the elite of Konoha and even the Hokage. He would surpass them all. Just to squeeze the life out of Uchiha Itachi. Otogakure, a few days later. There's a problem. Kimimaro stopped moving at the sudden interruption, although he had sensed Jirubu coming. He just hadn't expected his subordinate to actually dare speak up while his leader was training. The bone user was currently beating down 15 auto shinobi blindfolded. In the next 2 seconds, he killed all 15 shinobi and snarled in Jirubu's direction. He was still blindfolded. Impressive for anyone else, but Kimimaro wasn't any ordinary shinobi. Jirubu, what did I tell you before? The big orange-haired shinobi swallowed nervously, unsure on whether to reply or not. Well, and not to interrupt your sessions, Kimimaro-sama. A bone suddenly speared him through his left shoulder and another landed eerily close to his face in the wall he was now slumped against. Orochimaru-sama gave me reign over Otogakure this week. He told me if I see trash acting about, I can put them down without pause. Jirubu, despite you being one of the elite sound guards, to me, you're still trash. Weak, immensely so. Why yes, Kimimaro-sama. Another bone joined the one piercing Jirubu's left shoulder, just to add to the pain. As trash, you don't have any rights. Next time, I will see to it you die. Understood? Why yes. Now, for what reason have you risked your life? The young man with the orange mohawk nodded his head nervously. There's an intruder. His chakra is very weird. Kimimaro removed the blindfold and glared incredulously at Jirubu. Are you telling me it is only one person? Jirubu was a high-level sensor nin. With his sensor abilities, he was able to distinguish between males and females and could gauge their chakra type, even from a very far distance. Yes, but his chakra is telling me he has all elemental affinities. And he's doing nothing to conceal his chakra. He's just marching towards Otogakure. A bone sword, made out of Kimimaro's right arm, was now resting between Jirubu's eyes. Again, you're telling me there's only one person and you're not dealing with this yourselves? You four are elite guards, act like it. I'm busy. He turned his bone sword into a normal right arm again. Before Kimimaro could turn away however, Jirubu dared to speak up again. But wait. Despite the death glare he was receiving, Jirubu continued. It must be a Jinchuriki. His chakra levels are just too high. Kimimaro's interest was piqued now and he retracted his bone sword once more, since it had activated on instinct again. A Jinchuriki? He seemed to ponder the situation as he casually glanced around the area, observing all dead shinobi around him. I fought Jinchuriki before, they're very interesting. So interesting that he always had to go curse seal level 2. Why would a Jinchuriki be heading for Otogakure? Very well. You intercept and try to kill him. I'll act as your backup and observe first. Consider this a test for the four of you. How far away is he? Still more than a mile, Kimimaro-sama. Jirubu paused as Kimimaro walked past him. His chakra? I can't feed on it. Then don't feed on it, fool. The Kagaya popped his neck once. Orochimaru-sama is in Suna, Kabuto-sensei in Konoha and I don't care where Gurren is but she's not here. Let's kill the trash that dares walk into Otogakure territory in their absence. Assemble the others and go. I won't be far off. 3 guys and 1 girl were sprinting away from their village and were about to confront an intruder. There's 2 of them now. His eyebrows furrowed intensely. It seems the second just appeared out of nowhere and also This one gives off the same presence as Orochimaru-sama. He then signaled for a short break. I suggest we turn back. Kimimaro-sama might be fine, but we are no match for whatever is. Maybe you should, you little pissant. A few chuckles followed the girl's comment. But we're no pathetic cowards. A wicked grin formed on her visage. But know that when you do you'll be the next one we kill when we get back. Listen to Tayuya, Jirubu. A spider-like young man advised. A grin quite like Tayuya's on his face. The four of us can deal with whatever shit is coming. And Kimimaro-sama is actually backing us up in this. Let's move. A gray-haired man with what seemed like a second head on his back ordered. You come with us and you get to live, Jirubu. The bulky shinobi with the orange mohawk snarled. No, I don't. But he followed, nonetheless. Koto Amatsukami will easily be noticed by Itachi, right? It should be obvious, Itachi is too clever for it. What if we implement it for later use? With the same command? And we implant it in Sasuke? Itachi's weakness is definitely Sasuke, but you're overlooking one thing here. What? Danzo tsked but wore a grin. To you right now, Sasuke seems like a meek little lamb whose fully developed status you believe to have already prognosed. He held up a hand to make sure Naruto didn't respond. But you're wrong. Given things like a dujutsu, it will be noticed by him. He is no fool. Or rather, the Uchiha are no fools. They have a knack for figuring out techniques and their defaults. Giving him a delayed Koto Amatsukami even without his knowledge will most likely still backfire on you in the future. Don't be impulsive. The shinobi world is a chessboard that should be played on slowly and steadily. If you don't make a move, there is no counter either. TCH, but then we don't make any moves. Moving isn't always the best option. Sometimes you just have to tweak the chessboard instead of playing on it. Or, erase all possible counters so you can make the one move you want to make. Last, it's too bad there's two I can't take. Naruto switched subjects. But the girl is an Uzumaki and that two-body guy has a cell technique that might prove problematic for my own ability. Danzo put a hand to his chin as they calmly walked through the mud. I'd assume he is a descendant of Otsutsuki quite like you are. Your abilities aren't the same, but I wouldn't be surprised if his ability is a downgrade from yours. He is from the Shirai clan. Following this logic there is one conclusion. If the Shirai clan isn't already decimated, we should see to it. I agree. He tilted his head as he sensed that his would-be assaulters approached. The other two are good to go, though. He popped his knuckles and summoned Kabikuri Haucho. Let's do this. That is Shimura Danzo. He was Orochimaru-sama's superior in Konohagakure. That should be enough to tell you we should not engage. His tone was calm but he definitely wasn't. Give it a fucking rest, you cockroach. Tayuya yelled in whisper mode. The four of them were currently hiding in a tree overlooking the muddy swamp that Naruto and Danzo were traversing. Danzo, huh? Well, that's one old man that might be a bitch to fight. Who's the kid? Looks like a weak tramp to me. Sakin looked at Jirubu for an answer. The censor nin was also the one with the most information in the Sound 4. Tayuya agreed with the assessment. The blonde kid was poorly dressed and wore no armor at all. His ragged clothing was also dirtied because of the swamp. What the hell was a stupid kid thinking setting foot in a place like Otto? I don't know, but he's definitely a Jinchuriki. I can't get a read on his chakra, it's too chaotic. Kidumaru, the guy with 6 arms, looked a bit troubled. Fighting a Jinchuriki is not something I enjoy. We should finish him off before he can tap into the demon's chakra. The female of the group thought differently. I don't know what you're so worried about, the guy really looks like shit. You pussies should just hang back while I slice their throats. They had all noticed how she had already finished some hand seals. Tayuya, you fool, your genjutsu has made them find us. Sakin and Kidumaru were also shocked. Jirubu never cussed. Spread out, Sakin ordered, even though the two Konoha nin hadn't moved an inch despite having been hit by a failed genjutsu. It's still very surprising. Danzo nodded to himself. An Uzumaki wielding genjutsu. I don't recall ever having faced something like that before. These fools actually think that they were hidden before the genjutsu? The older of the duo tapped his cane on the ground. It seems my presence has them doubting. I sense fear. Resting the huge Kabikuri on his shoulder, Naruto completely let his guard down. The Sound 4 are such a letdown. More like the Sound Boar. Danzo didn't respond, immediately. It's a good thing I know why you summoned me. I'll get rid of all their curse seals, but I advise you to summon more to deal with the Orochimaru remnants coming out. Even weakened, that snake is a troublesome opponent. I can remove their cursed seals by myself, but this is a situation where I need to be careful. I don't want unnecessary casualties. Naruto of course knows the same jutsu as Danzo. Why don't you wait for openings as I battle them? Perhaps they'll tire out and become easy pickings. The Warhawk snorted almost dramatically. They are already easy pickings. Take this. Kidomaru yelled gleefully as he fired off one of his most powerful arrows at the blonde kid that was sure to die now. He was in Cursed Seal level 2 and the blonde was completely in his sight. He would adjust the webbings attached to the arrow for any dodging that might come. He will die definitely. As the arrow approached, the spider-like shinobi watched in shock as his arrow just got torn apart right in front of the Konoha boy. Fuuten? As the dust cleared, the blonde had his back turned to him. It seemed he wasn't even paying attention. This little mother uck. He got interrupted harshly as his throat suddenly got grabbed from behind. Are you a fool? Kagaya Kimimaro. Would he be killed already? By one of his own? I will admit that even I wouldn't be able to deal with your most powerful attack that easily, and yet you still want to continue? He released Kidomaru, ever the impulsive one. I'm afraid this one won't be so easy. Even Kimimaro was saying this? Who is this blonde kid? What do we do? Kidomaru rasped as he fell on his knees on the branch he and Kimimaro were standing on. I've ordered the others to stand down. You moved quicker than I anticipated. Kimimaro had his eyes narrowed at the strange blonde Jinchuriki and the old man. They're confident and I believe they have the right to be. I sense no fear at all and they know I am here, too. Since you were so eager to start your deathmatch, I've suggested you fight them and distract them while we wait for openings. Kidomaru turned fearful. The others agreed easily. Go. And Kidomaru went down charging at Naruto and Danzo. Disobeying a direct order from Kimimaro meant instant death, after all. With incredible speed thanks to the cursed seal, Kidomaru came barging in at Naruto, who easily pivoted around his assault. The Auto Nin wielded two bows, one bow left and one bow right. He could fire both almost instantly, while also being able to do taijutsu since he had 6 arms. Quite dangerous, your arrows. Kidomaru ignored him and continued firing off arrows at both him and Danzo while also trying to get a hit or kick in as he circled Naruto. Unfortunately, the arrows assaulting Danzo were torn apart before they even got close, just as easily as with Naruto. His taijutsu wasn't great, but in his level 2 state Kidomaru was considered deadly in the art. He realized he just wasn't against these opponents as the blonde decked him hard to the ground and yanked off 2 of his left arms in the process. He would probably die here. No openings at all. Their Fuuten defense seems to be quite the pain. Firing off my own jutsu won't make a difference. My finger bone bullets are about as powerful as Kidomaru's arrows. Sakin frowned. Kimimaro's pretty talkative. Is he afraid? Is he thinking of retreating? Tayuya was surprisingly silent as they were watching the one-sided battle. The arrogant young woman knew they were out of their league here. Kidomaru had jumped back to create some distance between himself and the two from Konoha. He was bleeding profusely and panting. Were trained to deal with this kind of damage though. What was going on? He can drain chakra, Jirubu clarified. Quite quickly, too. Maintaining the cursed seal now is very painful for Kidomaru. You're wrong. Jirubu looked confused as he stared at Kimimaro. I can see it. He doesn't drain chakra. He drains something else. Kimimaro snarled and turned angrier by the second. My eyes can see it. Look closely. Kidomaru is extremely fatigued because he has aged considerably. So that little shit drains age? Sakin released Yukon from himself. We need to kill that ability right now. I don't know what his ability does, but we can't let him touch us. The leader of the Sound 4 ordered. Kidomaru's specialty is ranged assault, so we should get him out of there while we. All of their eyes widened as the old man all of a sudden appeared right next to Kidomaru and pulled out a sickly-looking Orochimaru. Retreat. Kimimaro immediately ordered at that. They know too much, right? Naruto had just appeared right between all of them. She didn't know what to do but run as fast as she could. As soon as that blonde kid had appeared between them, he had sliced into both Sakin and Yukon with some wind technique that made countless cuts but also seemed to entrap them. Kimimaro had turned tail as well and was running and jumping right in front of her. She didn't care much for the fat bastard Jirubu, but she was sure he was dead by now. He couldn't keep up with this speed anyway. Unreal. We, Orochimaru's elite, are actually running away from a kid and an old man like a bunch of cowards. Tayuya thought as Kimimaro was slowly expanding the distance between them. Fucking asshole's gonna leave me to die too. Her eyes narrowed as Kimimaro had stopped all of a sudden. A few seconds later she joined him on the ground, very near to Otogakure. She was completely shocked, though, to see who Kimimaro was facing. Kidumaru and Jirubu, looking fresher and stronger than ever. What the fuck is going? She screamed in frustration. Kimimaro remained calm however. They're the real thing, they're not illusions. But the Kagaya was also very confused. He wasn't a sensor nin like Jirubu, but he could sense chakra levels. He had felt Kidumaru, Sakin, Yukon and Jirubu died just about a minute ago. He had been running top speed, a speed they definitely couldn't keep up with, and yet they had beaten him to this spot. It was impossible. You're not that fast. The blonde Konoha nin appeared behind Kidumaru and Jirubu. Why are you running away anyway? Shouldn't you defend Otogakure? Kimimaro glared at the fool, but also at Kidumaru and Jirubu. Who are you? This stranger had somehow killed his subordinates and had then revived them again in the same time he had been running back to Otto. Again, it was impossible. Shouldn't you state your own name first, Kagaya Kimimaro? The blonde glanced at Kidumaru and Jirubu before grinning back at him. I dare say your two underlings have switched sides. They work for me now. Fucking shitheads. We're going to Tayuya. The redhead continued glaring at them, but listened to Kimimaro's request to be quiet. They really weren't in a favorable position here. Ah, it seems you've caught up with them. From behind, the other Konoha nin joined them. Shit, I forgot about this fucking old man. It got even worse. You took quite long, Danzo. Yes, Orochimaru is quite a hassle. What did you do to him? In an instant Kimimaro had turned level 2 and was rushing towards Danzo, but had to quickly sidestep wooden stakes coming from the ground. There. Danzo seemed to reprimand. Know your place, little child. You may be a Kagaya, but I wield the Mokuton. At that Kimimaro really knew they were not to come out of this alive. Out of all the bloodlines, his was extremely powerful. But the Mokuton was undoubtedly stronger. His cursed seal receded, but he kept his guard up. You haven't killed us, so what do you want? Your allegiance. Kimimaro turned to regard the foolish blonde who had answered. Who are you? He repeated the question. Oh, I'm Uzumaki Naruto, a fresh genin from Konoha. Who the fuck is he kidding? Tayuya thought as she watched him. He slaughtered Kidumaru and Sakin without even trying. With a flick of his wrist Jirubu and Kidumaru suddenly vanished in wisps of chakra. A detail that didn't go unnoticed by either Kimimaro and Tayuya. I see. You're quite dangerous, Uzumaki Naruto. The Kagaya acknowledged. But expect no allegiance from us. We serve Orochimaru-sama. Danzo snorted and Naruto tsked. But then whoever said you had any choice in the matter? Kimimaro blocked the strike from behind as Naruto used Shunshin. He was about to make a counter move, but the blonde had returned to his previous spot. Ah, sorry about that. I just needed a slight touch to try out this new technique. Kimimaro was a person who wasn't easily deterred, but Naruto's grin wasn't pleasant at all. Kyuzu Tensai. Tayuya looked horrified when from out of the blonde's body an exact copy of Kimimaro walked out. It's not perfect, but I only touched you a little bit. Let's see how much of you I managed to comprehend, Kagaya Kimimaro. This is not good, the bone user thought. The first thing he noticed was that this copy was like his mirror image. Everything was the exact opposite. And that was exactly what would bring him down, he realized as Naruto rushed at him with his copy by his side. A week later, with his eyes closed, he could sense the many genin around him stressed to the point that they were actually thinking of giving up altogether. The Chunin exam's first test came in the form of a paper examination. This would normally be no problem for him, but this particular test had questions that were impossible to answer. Still, that didn't mean it was a problem. Hyuga Neji was a genin whose subskills was actually finding a solution as quick as possible. This test was meant to be cheated, obviously, and he had the perfect tool for this. The Byakugan. But he would revel in the silent panic around him first as he opened his eyes, Byakugan still not active. Konoha had quite a few teams participating, but he was most interested in the rookie Team 7, under guidance of Hitaki Kakashi. To be more accurate, he was most interested in the last of the Uchiha. The other two genin were probably garbage and he had forgotten their names about a second or two after introduction. The last of the Uchiha was actually using his dujutsu quite flauntingly. The Sharingan, the dujutsu said to be superior to the Byakugan. We will find out during this exam. Having seen enough, Neji decided to activate the Byakugan and end this test cleanly. However, he flinched visibly in his seat. His vision was 360 degrees, but it keyed in on one individual instantly. How? Complete darkness. This person was completely dark. He could always see chakra coils in everyone. What was going on? Who was this person? This person is a Hyuga's worst matchup. Sweating in slight panic, he altered his Byakugan's view to normal vision instead of X-ray. It's the Uchiha's teammate. Neji was utterly confused as he switched back to X-ray. His eyes. Only his eyes are a pristine white. Very, very similar to. The young Hyuga prodigy had his fists clenched. Two Hyugas. What's going on? Ever since that paper test you've been on edge, are you alright? Yosh. There is no need to worry, Neji-san. You have me and Ten by your side. I know, Lee. Neji responded as he turned to his two teammates. Forget what I said before this Chunin exam. There are actually a few participants we probably should avoid. Neji? Lee met Ten's confused glance. Neji was too confident in his own skills to avoid opponents. But he was dead serious. There's a red-haired kid from Sanagakure who has more chakra than a Junin. I assume Suna has a Junin participating for them. A Konoha genin with gray hair and glasses has numerous amounts of scars on his organs, so I think he has a very formidable regeneration ability. Neji paused as he made sure his teammates were listening to him. I am sure Uchiha Sasuke will be quite a decent opponent, but I am more worried about his teammate, the blonde one. What, you mean that Naruto kid? Ten was now completely confused. He is the one who has you so worked up. Seriously? Neji nodded without shame. Don't take him lightly. He sent her a meaningful look. He can block my Byakugan completely. Lee's and Ten's eyes widened at that little tidbit. Presumably, he is my worst enemy. Let's avoid Team 7. The plans would have surely changed with the sudden disappearance of his elite guards, but he was quite sure the snake would still try and approach his Uchiha teammate. Danzo had made quick work of all the Orochimaru coming from the cursed seals in case the missing nin had a way of relaying information to the original. Even though only originals came out, of course. Let's go to the tower and take everyone's scrolls. Naruto suggested as he nodded ahead. It's not that far. How do you know? Let's just say I've been here many times before. Was the answer Sakura received. The real Naruto watched his cage Bunshin and his teammates head for the tower as he was in hiding. Making sure no one was spying on him, he performed the Shinzui Bunshin effortlessly and out came Jirubu, Kidomaru and Kimimaro. I've given the three of you far more chakra than you're accustomed to. Make sure you get used to it fast. He eyed them all severely seriously. Your mission is to kill Orochimaru and whoever he is with. Dispel if you fail. He threw them all a Hite 8. Wear this to enrage him. A Konoha headband. I want you to tell him you're with Konoha now. He waved them off after that, a sign for them to head out. As the three left wordlessly, Konoha headband tied around the forehead, Naruto performed the Shinzui Bunshin again. This time, he had summoned Shimura Danzo, Yuki Haku and Momochi Zabuza. Weaken the Ichibi Jinchuriki. He turned to Danzo. Perform the Gogyu Fuin on him. Don't kill anyone on his team. If possible, back Kimimaro and the others up and kill Orochimaru. With another wave of his hand, they were off to finish their missions. Lastly, he summoned two more clones of Essence. This time, two Rudanbu. Nara Hyo and Aburame Torun. Let us hunt down a spy. Naruto's cage Bunshin had quite easily sliced up a huge snake by usage of a wind jutsu and was now watching how the rest of his team were shaken to the core by this random grass genin's killing intent. It was actually quite an impressive amount. Of course, he knew this was Orochimaru in disguise. He had read through Danzo's reports, after all. He had to act the weak genin here and pretend he was frozen too. Fuuten ninjutsu, huh? Quite a powerful technique, too. His focus was actually on him for a few seconds, but he then changed his mind. But you're still weak if you can't even move in my true presence. I expected more from you, though. Itachi's little brother is quite the disappointment. Orochimaru grinned through his disguise as Sasuke wanted to rage at the comment but simply couldn't because of the killer intent. At least you've activated your Sharingan. It looks like it has some good potential. The grass genin took 2 kunai and readied to throw them. But that hardly matters if you can't survive this kunai. Naruto frowned as the other kunai would be thrown at Sakura. He paused at himself as he wondered what would happen if Sasuke and Sakura died here. What would happen to Team 7? He wasn't impressed when Sasuke managed to unfreeze and save Sakura and himself from the thrown kunai. Orochimaru's killer intent was nothing compared to the Kyuubi's, although he was a bit surprised to see the Uchiha save Sakura. Orochimaru cackled gleefully and was about to chase when 3 shinobi landed right in front of him. And Naruto couldn't help but cherish the shock and rage on the grass genin's face. Kimimaro, Kidomaru and Jirubu had arrived, all donning the Konoha headband. As Naruto made his way to the rest of his team, he couldn't help but think that life was pretty nifty. That was rather easy. Konoha has some weaker teams participating. The leader of 3 Konoha genin shrugged. Easy pickings, perfect for the mission. You're still on that Konoha rookie team, right? The one with the Uchiha? A nod came from the leader. We'll wait at the tower, then. Kabuto watched disinterestedly as Akudu Yoroi and Masumi Tsurugi walked away from him. It's too bad I can't kill those 2 weaklings yet. With a sigh, Kabuto started moving in the direction Team 7 would probably be. As he moved, he couldn't help but wonder if it was such a good idea to make a move during the Chunin exams now. What with the sudden disappearance of the Sound 5 and the entire annihilation of one of their biggest hideouts. It was a rather big blow. He wasn't so sure if Orochimaru's assumptions were correct. His master believed it was the work of the Akatsuki. It was feasible, of course. Perhaps they were looking for new members and had Kimimaro or someone else from the Sound 5 in mind. Perhaps it was just an act of revenge. Either way, they lost 5 promising soldiers. He stopped walking as someone had appeared right in front of him. A genin actually managed to sneak up on him? Excuse me, Konoha genin? It was the dead last from Uchiha Sasuke's team. Uzumaki Naruto, the disappointing Jinchuriki. Ah, yes, can I help you? Kabuto put on a harmless guy act and started moving to the blonde. Perhaps he could accompany him back to his team and get a read on Sasuke after that. Did you lose you team? Kabuto frowned as Naruto just kept staring at him. Are you lost, maybe? He tried. Still no response from Naruto. And then, for some reason, it turned a lot colder in the area. Was this killing intent? Yakushi Kabuto. For betraying Konoha, the penalty is assimilation. The blonde uttered, a sinister grin on his features. He almost paused at that, but Kabuto was a seasoned spy. He simply scratched the back of his head and chuckled as if confused. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, but it seems you know my name. You have me at a disadvantage. Kabuto's eyes hardened as he heard 2 people land behind him. An ambush? From Team 7? I'm Uzumaki Naruto, but you already know this. I've heard you're pretty strong, somewhere along the level of the average Junin? Why don't we put that to the test? While keeping an eye on Naruto, Kabuto slightly turned to see who had just appeared behind him. Aburame Torun and Naruhito? Is Danzo making a move against us? How foolhardy. But Kabuto was calculating his chances. The genin is easy, but these 2 are quite the hassle. The Nara has probably already laid several traps around me and I can't let Torun get too close to me. I probably can't get away easily with the Nara obviously prepared. Why are you here? Kabuto's tone had changed drastically. Orochimaru-sama will not be pleased by this interference. Again like before, he got no response. Kabuto was a pretty level-headed person, but this situation hardly allowed him to be calm. He was at a severe disadvantage here. Oi, Kabuto. Kabuto regarded the Jinchuriki, now with a little red chakra surging around him. So he can control the Biju's chakra? I guess I can't underestimate him either. Despite the situation, Kabuto stayed rather calm. He had plenty of escape techniques to his disposal after all. Orochimaru is probably already dead. The gray-haired spy narrowed his eyes at Naruto. So you work for Danzo now, Naruto-kun? Or have you always worked for him? Neither. Danzo works for me. Those 2 are my slaves as well. Naruto then pointed right at him. And you will be my slave, too. Alright, this kid was talking nonsense. Interesting. Kabuto was very confused, because the two root Anbu hadn't moved at all. This kid was pretty crazy, but he could sense the massive amount of chakra he was exuding. Alright, things are getting dangerous. This Naruto kid now has more chakra than I and these two root Anbu combined. I've ordered them to stand by in case you want to run. Let's fight, just you and me. I'll let you go if you can defeat me. Oh? Kabuto's eyes turned blood red. Is that right? Rushing forward in amazing speed with chakra scalpels ready to slice into Naruto, Kabuto wanted to finish this quick. But Naruto was quicker and was above him all of a sudden, with finished hand seals to boot. Fuuten, Tobajeri. Naruto's right foot took with it a powerful wind-infused storm that completely knocked into him, since he was in the middle of a dash. He used a quick Kawarimi to escape most of the damage. As Kabuto appeared a few meters away, Naruto was on him again. This time he had a wind sword ready to gut him. That is Baki's wind sword technique. He barely managed to duck underneath the slice and responded with a chakra scalpel. Only to have his right arm sliced off. Taking the time to be shocked was not smart as Naruto slammed his fist hard in his face. He went down to the ground hard. A foot stomp completely pulverized his right leg and 6 shuriken impaled his remaining arm. You're not very strong for Orochimaru's go-to guy. What is happening? Kabuto couldn't do anything as Naruto had completely immobilized him. His only remaining arm was impaled by shuriken and the only thing he could use was his left leg. I'm screwed. But then the real shocker came as he came to the conclusion that his chakra reserves were empty. What did you do? There is no need for screaming, Kabuto-kun. You've underestimated me and paid dearly for it. I would feel much pity for you, but then I didn't really enjoy being underestimated, so. Where did all his chakra go? He couldn't use his regeneration skill like this. I like the panic on your face, Kabuto-kun. This fucking brat was gloating. Don't worry, I'll heal you. He didn't like the tone of his voice as he said that. But once healed, you'll be my little soldier. Orochimaru was not amused as he glared at the three in front of him. What is going on? He had instantly sensed that none of them had a cursed seal. Also, looking at Kimimaro, he could see that the Kagaya was no longer ill. Had he made a deal with that hag, Tsunade? Had he been cured? Did Konoha take his hideout and somehow manage to take his soldiers for their own? You ungrateful little fools, you stand in front of me with Konoha Hite 8? Gathering all the chakra he could and dispelling his disguise, he was ready to kill these ingrates. Sasuke and his team had already left and were swiftly approaching the tower anyway. Orochimaru, we have orders to kill you. Kimimaro said as he took a step forward. You don't have Jugo's Juinjutsu. Without it you're about as strong as an infant. He observed Jirubu and Kidumaru, who were just staring right back at him. Very well, let's see how this plays out. Fighting Kimimaro was a difficult for most, but Orochimaru was not most. He was overpowering the trio quite easily, but he didn't remember them being this powerful. Had they been given something that strengthened them? Orochimaru, whipping his head back and he made sure to keep his three opponents at bay, he snarled at the familiar face of Shimura Danzo. So this is your doing, old fool? Did you brainwash my soldiers? Brainwash? Danzo shook his head condescendingly. Hypocrite. The snake summoner didn't recognize the girl by Danzo's side, but he did recognize Momochi Zabuza. The Kiri Nuke Nin wouldn't be too hard to deal with, but the odds were definitely against him now with Danzo here. He had to retreat. I will remember this. He warned Danzo as he sank into the floor as quickly as he could, using a Doden Jutsu to scatter his presence in snake summons underground. Hey, so that was Orochimaru, huh? Zabuza chuckled. It's pretty fun to be in an army this strong. It's dangerous he thinks we have turned on him, but it is fortunate he is extremely ill-informed. Danzo muttered to him and Haku. Orochimaru was always one with the escape tactics. It would be difficult to corner and kill him anywhere. I believe Naruto wanted him alive anyway. That kid sure likes to play this shinobi world. Yes, he does. I just hope he doesn't get carried away. Hacking, he managed to finally regain control of his limbs as he stared at the unmoving form of his little brother. Just what the hell had happened? These three shinobi just came out of nowhere and completely decimated his younger brother. The undefeatable master of the desert had been beaten in seconds by an old man with a cane. Tamari was right next to him, trying to help him up. She was in much better shape because she had actually managed to block the attack on her person. But she still got hurt badly as she was sent harshly into a tree bark. He himself got the breath knocked out of him with a single blow to the stomach. Who were these people? Gaara was still unconscious and Shukaku was not breaking out. I recognized one of them. Tamari muttered as they slowly made their way to Gaara. Momochi Zabuza. I know because he wields the sword, the Kabikari Haucho. But what the hell is a missing nin from the mist doing here? I don't know, but I think they really messed Gaara up. Mitarashi Anko was not pleased. There were several hidden cameras placed throughout the Forest of Death, but somehow all of them didn't record what was important. Where did the teams that are still missing go? The second test had ended yesterday and quite a few teams had passed, but a lot of the teams were missing and Anbu were sent to investigate. There was no need for preliminary tests, despite there being so many teams in this Chunin exams, and the reason was this. A lot of teams just went missing. The teams that actually did pass were 2 Konoha teams, a team from sand and a team from grass. 2 Konoha teams were found with heavily injured members, but other than that, all others were missing. This was actually disastrous. Other villages will not accept this. Which was why Konoha had sent many Anbu teams in to investigate. But a day later now and still no news. Anko wanted to interrogate the teams that passed, but the Hokage wanted them to rest. They seemed spooked, especially the sand team seemed very shaken. The Konoha teams that made it were Kakashi's team and Gai's team. From the sand it was the team with the Ichibi Jinchuriki, and from the grass village 3 that didn't seem particularly talented. The third test will be delayed because of the missing teams. The matches for the tournament were as of yet still unknown, but once known the appointed Junin instructors will be informed. Orochimaru was not amused. He was in the sand village at the moment. He hadn't heard from Kabuto and he assumed Danzo had gotten to him. He was now acting case cage, but he couldn't do much with most of his elite soldiers gone. Sanagakure wasn't strong enough to take on Konoha, and he wasn't sure if it was possible with the remaining powers he had in Otogakure. All he wanted was Sasuke's eyes and Hiruzen Sarutobi's death. Why did Danzo betray him? He wanted Hiruzen dead just as much. Orochimaru had already killed a few of his Suna subordinates in his rage. Right now he was contemplating on taking all his test subjects and just rain down on Konoha. Or to just call it off and try a different approach. Make Sanagakure stronger from the inside first perhaps? What did you do? Naruto and Danzo were in the Hokage's office. The now Fuin sealed office. What do you mean? I thought I specifically ordered you not to take more people in, Naruto. A cough brought Hiruzen's gaze to Danzo. If memory serves, I believe you ordered Naruto not to absorb any more of Konoha. He has followed those rules obediently. Hiruzen's gaze turned into a glare. Did you absorb all those teams, Naruto? Naruto shrugged. They were there for the pickings, Hokage-sama. I only went for the promising ones, the others I incinerated. The Anbu should find the marks. Besides, didn't that instructor make everyone sign papers before entering the Forest of Death? He is correct, Hiruzen. They knew the risks. Signing those papers just meant death for the many. Be quiet, Danzo. Hokage-sama. Why is this such a problem? 2 Kumo teams, 1 Konoha team, 2 rain teams, 2 auto teams, 1 grass team, 1 sand team, 2 Kiri teams, 1 from Waterfall and 1 from Moon Village. What were you thinking? Hey, I didn't take all of them. Not even half of those, even. Naruto, you need to understand that you're killing people. Innocents. For your own gain. Naruto realized that the Hokage was very serious. You've committed a crime and you will be punished for it. I will be punished? Yes. I am considering taking you out of the Chunin exams and resigning you from Kakashi's team. You've gone too far. Perhaps going as far to resigning you from the shinobi program altogether. Naruto frowned at the verdict. That's harsh. All I've done is protect Konoha. Do you know how much I have prevented by doing the things I've done? Do you realize how much I know about all the other countries now? It's true, Hiruzen. I know much thanks to my rude Anbu, but Naruto knows so much more. We've been kept in the dark about what happened in Omegakure. We know all about the Jinchuriki everywhere. We know everything now. Are you quite done, Danzo? Since you're only considering punishment, perhaps I can come forth with a suggestion, Hokage-sama? Naruto interjected. I don't think you can do anything to condone your actions, Naruto. Well, hear me out, at least? Alright, but this better not be nonsense. Danzo actually grinned as Naruto stepped a bit closer to the fire leader. I have mastered another sub-skill. Naruto started as he summoned another Shinzui Bunshin beside himself. Hiruzen seemed unimpressed as Yamanaka Fu was standing in the office all of a sudden. Naruto grinned like a cat who just caught the bird. I call it the Rinne Tensai.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.